panelists, distinguished excellencies, faculties of BISS, ladies and gentlemen present. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. On behalf of the Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, BIISS, I, Noor Ahmed, Research Officer of this institute, welcome you all to today's seminar on Economic Diversification and Global Market, Bangladesh's Opportunities and Way Forward. Today, His Excellency Dr. Hassan Mahmud MP, Honorable Foreign Minister, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, will grace the seminar as the chief guest. He will join us after a while. Distinguished audience, we are also delighted to have Mr. Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad MP, former Foreign Principals Coordinator, SDGs, Prime Minister's Office, Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Foreign Secretary, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Shah Mohammad Halaluddin, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, amongst us as the special guest of this seminar. Learned audience, today's session will begin with the welcome address by Major General Muhammad Abu Bakr Siddiq Khan, Director General, BIISS. Afterwards, Dr. Mahfuz Kobil, Research Director, BISS, will deliver the keynote presentation of the seminar. Respected audience, we are privileged to have learned panelist, Professor Dr. Muhammad Jahangir Alam, Faculty of Agricultural Economics and Rural Sociology, Bangladesh Agricultural University, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahadat Hossain Siddiqui, Department of Economics, University of Dhaka, Professor Dr. Rozana Rashid, Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Dr. Muhammad Din Islam, Associate Professor, Department of Economics, University of Dhaka. This panel discussion will be followed by an open discussion session and speech by respected special guests. Finally, the Honorable Chief Guest of the seminar will deliver his valuable remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, today's seminar will be chaired by Ambassador AFM Gausul Azam Sarkar, Chairman BISS. May I request the chair of the session to kindly commence the program. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Foreign Minister of the Government of Bangladesh and the chief guest today, Dr. Hassan Mahmud MP. He will be joining us shortly. And with his permission, we are commencing the seminar. Distinguished special guests, Director General BIISS, learned keynote presenter and speakers, Excellencies and members of the Diplomatic Corps, government officials, and my former colleagues, distinguished guests, media friends, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to you all. Our seminar theme today is Economic Diversification and Global Market, Bangladesh's Opportunities and Way Forward. It's indeed an honor for us that we are having Honorable Foreign Minister of Bangladesh as our chief guest, who is coming as a tradition of the BIISS that after a new foreign minister assumes duties, the BIISS holds a seminar with him or her. We are especially honored with the kind presence of special guests, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. M.D. Abul Kalam Azad, former Principal Coordinator, SDGs, Prime Minister's Office, Ambassador Masood bin Momen, the Foreign Secretary, Senior Secretary, and Additional Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, and very learned speakers and discussants who are coming from the academia and from different fields of their expertise. We have heard about the order of the program today, and without repeating that, I'd like to invite my colleague, Director General BIISS, to take the floor to make his welcome speech.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. His Excellency Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Senior Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, respected Chairman BIISS, Ambassador AFM Gausul Azam Sarkar, learned panelists, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning to you all. On behalf of Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, I welcome you all to today's seminar on economic diversification and global market, Bangladesh's opportunity and way forward. My heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Chief Guest and special guests for gracing this session. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us in this critical discourse on issues that have far-reaching implications for our nation and its workforce. At the outset, I would like to pay my deepest homage to the memory of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and his family members, along with 3 million martyrs who laid their lives for the liberation of Bangladesh. In this month of February, I would also like to pay solemn tribute to the memory of all the martyrs of 1952 language movement who sacrificed their lives to establish the rights of our mother tongue. Distinguished guests, today we gather to look into the crucial discourse surrounding Bangladesh's economic landscape, exploring avenues for diversification and strategies for leveraging global market opportunities. Bangladesh has made remarkable growth in economic development over the past 2 decades. From being the bottomless basket, the country has transformed into a rapidly emerging economy with a growing industrial base and a robust services sector. However, as we navigate the complexities of the global economy, Bangladesh must adapt, innovate, and diversify its economic activities to ensure sustained growth and prosperity. Today's seminar underscores the importance of economic diversification in the context of Bangladesh's development trajectory. Economic diversification entails the expansion of the range of economic activities and sectors within a country's economy, thereby reducing the dependence on a single sector or product. For Bangladesh, a nation historically reliant on a few specific industries, diversification presents both challenges and opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, it is essential to acknowledge the significant development Bangladesh has made in diversifying its economy. The country has witnessed notable growth in sectors such as information technology, pharmaceuticals, shipbuilding, and agriculture. However, there remains immense potential for further diversification across various sectors, including tourism, renewable energy, ICT services, manufacturing, etc. It is high time to explore how Bangladesh can effectively harness its competitive advantages and tap into global market opportunities. In an increasingly interconnected world, access to international markets is paramount for sustaining economic growth and fostering development. Bangladesh possesses a young and dynamic workforce, a strategic geographic location, and the potential to be a trading hub, all of which can be leveraged to enhance its global market presence. Dear participants, Bangladesh must shed light on the challenges and barriers that Bangladesh faces in its pursuit of economic diversification and global market integration. These challenges may include infrastructural constraints, bureaucratic hurdles, regulatory frameworks, and geopolitical dynamics. By identifying these challenges and devising pragmatic solutions, we can start a course towards a more diversified and resilient economy. Now is the time to focus on the role of innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology in driving economic diversification. Innovation and technology have the potential to revolutionize trading sectors, spur the economic emergence of new industries, and enhance productivity and efficiency across the economy. Encouraging a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship will be crucial in unlocking Bangladesh's full potential and propelling it towards sustainable development. Learned audience, in conclusion, today's seminar serves as a platform for meaningful dialogue, collaboration, and knowledge sharing on the critical issues of economic diversification and global market integration. By bringing together policymakers, industry experts, academics, and stakeholders, we aim to chart a collective path forward for the economic development of Bangladesh. I encourage all participants to actively engage in the discussions, exchange insights and ideas, and work towards concrete solutions that will propel Bangladesh towards a brighter and more prosperous future. Finally, I express my gratitude to all the guests, along with the learned audience and distinguished panelists, for encouraging us with your kind presence. I wish you all a fruitful deliberations ahead. Joy Bangla.
Thank you, General Siddiq, for your welcome speech. I'd like to highlight one thing. One may ask why we have chosen this theme for today's seminar. Diversification of our economy and the global market. It's particularly because there has been in the recent years what Bangladesh is facing are different kinds of disruptions and shocks and a tendency globally of protectionism. And as Director General has mentioned, geopolitical developments, that is there. But also there has been some emphasis which is driving us, actually guiding us for this discussion. That is emphasis of diversification of the economy in this juncture of our economic transition, set out in the next perspective plan 2041. So Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been very much emphatic about this, and this is the answer to our faster growth and development. So that is there. So this is the reason why we have gathered some important experts, and we'll be listening to the special guests, and we'll be benefiting from them. So at this stage, I'd like to invite my colleague and Research Director of BIISS, Dr. Mahfuz Kabir, to make his keynote speech to set the seminar in motion.
Thank Thank you. Thank you, respected Chairman of BISS, respected Director General of BISS, respected Foreign Secretary, fellow panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. So today I'm going to present on the economic diversification and dynamics in the global market from the perspective of Bangladesh. As already mentioned by our Director General and the chair of the session, the Bangladesh economy has been performing quite impressively despite manifold challenges over the last 1.5 decades. So there are, in fact, challenges from the political ground and challenges from the external sector and challenges with the financial sector as well. So over the last 1.5 decades, especially in the current tenure of the government, so the economy, especially in terms of economic growth, poverty reduction, and the external sector. So these all three, in fact, key pillars of the economy that have performed very well. And the country has emerged as a developmental role model. So that's a big thing, and it's been recognized by the development partners as well as the scholars across the world. And the economy. So the economy has been blessed by, especially the external sector has been blessed by the two important pillars. One is the export, especially the ready-made garments, and the inflow of foreign remittance. And we are also, in fact, supported by the, in fact, effort of the development partners through implementing different mega projects. So this is also a very important thing. And as already mentioned, so Bangladesh wants to become a developed country by 2041. And before that, we want to also graduate from the, in fact, middle income, in fact, low middle income to upper middle income country by 2031. And even before that, we in fact, we want to become, we want to, in fact, achieve the SDGs in by 2030. Despite manifold challenges, we are, in fact, progressing towards achieving major, in fact, and important targets of the SDGs, like the poverty reduction and in fact, other aspects of the human development. So why diversification is very important? So as in fact, back in fact 1950s, so Davis Springer hypothesis is basically the foundation of the diversification, and this particular hypothesis was adopted by the, in fact, international organizations like the World Bank, IMF, and they propagated this particular aspect of the diversification, especially export diversification. And in 1990s, many developed countries and the LDCs, so they have adopted the strategies and of diversification, and they, in fact, restructured their production bases and includes a range of products in their, in fact, the list of exports. So that is basically the brief background of the export diversification and the government of Bangladesh as well. So, and it has been pursuing its diversification strategy through different projects, and it has, in fact, initiated different steps in its export policies over the years. And if we see the very recent, in fact, policies and plan documents like the 8-5-year plan and also the perspective plan to achieve the vision 2041. So the second perspective plan, which starts from and also if we see the other policies like the export policy of 2021-24, so it is going on, and also the, in fact, national tariff policy 2023. So all have, in fact, stressed on the importance of export diversification. And these, in fact, plans and policy documents, they have identified the loopholes and problems of the current strategies of, and the incentive structure, and in fact, suggested recommendations to be implemented by the government agencies and also the private sector. So that is basically clear from the policy perspective. And there are many, in fact, literatures like the literatures which is published from the academic arena, and also the, in fact, papers, working papers of the IMF, especially IMF and World Bank. So they have consistently, in fact, emphasized on the export diversification, considering the, in fact, the vulnerability of few of the sectors that if this, in fact, dominate the export. So if we see the, in fact, economic landscape of the world over the last 2 decades, and we have seen the, in fact, the 2007 to 2008, so it's a big, in fact, blow in the global economic landscape, the financial meltdown. So it started from the US and rapidly propagated to the other economies of the world. And if we see the other, in fact, developments like the US-China trade war and the, in fact, small cycles in the global economy, the business cycles, and then the COVID-19 pandemic, and afterwards we see the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and also the turmoils in the Middle East. So all these are going, in fact, going on. And if we see the history of the modern world, we can see that there are, in fact, regular kind of disturbances in the global economy. So that is happening, and because of the disturbance, so if a country, in fact, heavily depends on the few sectors, one or two sectors for its export earnings, so it definitely, in fact, causes a big concern. And it's proved in the literature that the countries which are, in fact, diversifying sectors, especially exports, so they are, in fact, more or less safe in terms of their export earning. But the countries which are not that diversifying, so they, in fact, remain insecure. And there is another problem, like the buyers, they also always want to, in fact, see and if they see that a country is not diversifying, then they have an upper hand. So they can, in fact, push the countries which are, in fact, not diversifying. So they push the countries so that they can, in fact, impose lower price of the products of the exporting countries. So that is a strategy, and it's a business strategy. So given this background, so I'd like to, in fact, give a brief, in fact, context of the Bangladesh economy. So if we see the graph, so it's a global projection in the left-hand side. So if you can see, so over the last, in fact, few years, the global economy is undergoing, as I already mentioned, is a significant turmoil. So and the global economic growth, so it's very low currently. And if you see the growth of some of the important, in fact, countries and in fact, regions like the USA, EU, UK, China, so they are performing, in fact, not as part their performance, in fact, before the COVID pandemic. And there are some, in fact, emerging, in fact, economies like India and China. So they are now economic powerhouses of the world. So they are also not performing that much. So that is basically in fact, the situation, which is, in fact, even though the World Bank and IMF, they were, in fact, initially projecting that the year 2023 is the year of depression. So, but somehow they have revised their projection, and they are now saying that the year 2023 would be the year in which the growth will be the lowest after the COVID pandemic. So that is their situation. They are constantly changing in fact, the year. And according to their projection, the world economy will not revive before 2028. So that is in fact, the reality. And if you see the growth of Bangladesh, so in fact, except 2019-20, so the growth is more or less, in fact, satisfactory. And even though there are, in fact, back-to-back effects of the COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war, so the Bangladesh economy growth was 6.03% in the last fiscal year. And this year, despite financial stresses in Bangladesh, so still we are, in fact, hoping that the growth rate would be more than 6%. And if we see the foreign exchange, so it's creating a big pressure on the trade, in fact, trade flow, especially the import of the raw material, intermediate goods, and capital machinery. So these are not, in fact, coming in the normal pace. So even though the Honorable Prime Minister has said that the four sectors, like the food, medicine, energy, and the import of the raw materials, intermediate goods, and machineries for the, in fact, export-oriented sector, these will be normal in terms of LC opening. But for the other sectors, so the LC opening will depend on in fact, the preference of the ministries, like the Ministry of Commerce, Bangladesh Bank, and also the NBR. So and there are regulatory duties in some of the non-essential items. So these are, in fact, going on. So, and if we see the other things, like the price level, so inflation is creating a big problem. So even though it's a global problem, but still, in Bangladesh, we are seeing the consistent, in fact, high inflation. So that is happening, and because of that, if we see that the production, we are, in fact, even we are continuing our production, but the prices have gone up, and because of that, the production cost have gone up, and And because of that, we are in fact becoming less competitive in the international market. So these are challenges, but thanks to the in fact hardworking entrepreneurs, so they are in fact continuing their production despite manifold challenges and in fact exporting. And another thing has happened very silently. So there's a transformation in the technology installation, like from the in fact cotton-based product. So the capital machineries are installed, which are in fact producing both cotton goods and non-cotton, like the man-made fibers. So these are happening. So the installation has taken place during the period of COVID-19 and the ongoing, in fact, international, in fact, slowdown. So, but now another challenge is the contraction in monetary policy in the country. So it also, again, I mean, they're creating a pressure on the business people. So if you see the, in fact, trend of export performance, then the interesting thing has happened in the mid of 1990s, especially in 1997-98. So in fact, the contribution of the RMG sector has become 70% of the total goods export. So that has happened, and then the pace is going on, and it's a kind of logarithmic shape of the export performance of RMG in the total goods export. And if we see the, in fact, growth rate, then we can see that 1990 was the most important decade in which the growth was in fact considerable, both in terms of the compounded annual average growth rate and the simple annual average growth rate. So and if we see the non-RMG, in fact, products, then we can see that there are few, in fact, items in which there are high potentials, like the fruit. So now we are, in fact, in terms of mango production, it's I think the 7th in the world. And if we there are many other, in fact, the continental fruit items we are producing, and in a very low cost. For example, we are now producing the Miyazaki mango. So it's in fact if we see the production cost, it's very low. So in Bangladesh. So now in terms of vegetable production, so Bangladesh is the 3rd largest in the world. And if we see the fishery, especially the inland fisheries, then definitely it's number 3 or number 4. And then dry food, in fact, ready to eat cooked food, then recycle plastic. So it's very important element. So now we have started recycling the in fact plastic, and it's contributing in the production of high valued R&D, especially the denim products. So, and the footwear, headgear, both leather footwear and the non-leather footwear. So in both the cases, we are performing very well, and it has a tremendous potential in the travel good. And then ceramic products, jute diversified. So jute diversified is becoming as an important sector, and it has a very high potential, considering the environmental implications and the global climate change, mitigation of the global climate change. And furniture is an important item that we are considering. Then light engineering goods and electrical and electronic goods. And now we are open to all in the special economic zone to invest, both private sector from Bangladesh and in fact private sector from outside the world. So, and then I tried to see the factors behind this in fact export performance, and I found that the in fact export value index and the real GDP. So these are positively correlated with the in fact export performance, both in the short run and long run. So, and if we see, and we actually all know that the multi-fiber agreement and everything but arms in the EU, and the GSP facility, not only the EU but in the other parts of the world. So these are basically the crucial external factors, and the duty drawback and bonded house, these are the internal factors, and there are some other incentives like financial incentive to the R&D and other sectors that contributed towards the growth of this particular, in fact, export performance. And in fact, we are providing this incentive within the framework of the WTO. So we are not breaking the rule. So we are within the rule, and we, in fact, want to, in fact, continue before the LDC graduation in 2026 November. And if you see the export of non-R&D products, so there are few goods like the home textile. So it's becoming a big thing, and I think it's in fact right after the R&D sector, and jute goods and leather goods. So even though there are in fact a lot of problems regarding the compliance issues, to access the, in fact, EU and other developed country markets, the leather sector is coming, emerging. And then cotton and cotton goods, especially the intermediate goods like the fabrics and yarns, so that we are exporting, and non-leather footwear. So it's a tremendous potential. So and we are in fact doing well in terms of this export. And the headgear, in fact, footwear headgear, and these are basically the major non-RMG items. And in fact, the jute sector is mostly privatized nowadays. So in order to, in fact, invite the private sector, especially in the diversified jute goods. And home textile, line engineering, as I already mentioned, and very interesting thing, like the paper and paper goods. Now we see most of the papers, so basically the A4 size papers that we usually, in fact, used to import from Malaysia and other countries. Now it's an import substitute goods. And we are now exporting these products. We are producing very high quality, in fact, paper items. And now you see the tissue in the, so we have excelled in this kind of production, and we are exporting this. And furniture is also as an emerging product. So, and if we see the export diversification, so in compared to the other countries, like for example, the South Asian countries like India and other countries, so we are the most concentrating country in the region. It's one of the highest concentrating country in the world. So we are depending heavily on, as I already mentioned, the RMG sector, which is about 85% of the total goods export. Especially if we consider the, in fact, the last fiscal year's performance, and also from July 2023 to January 2024. So it's around 85%. And within the RMG sector, we have some diversification. And now we are having a kind of value transformation from the cotton-based to non-cotton, like the man-made fiber, and it's happening silently. So, and it is because of this kind of transformation, despite the, in fact, reduction in the volume of export, the export value and the total export earning is increasing. So that is happening, and it's an ongoing process. Still, if you see the composition, so around 70% of the, in fact, RMG products are cotton-based, and the 30% is non-cotton. But it would be the upside down, like the 70% from the non-cotton. So, and if we could, in fact, achieve this, because we already have the machines. So it's in fact, high-cost machines. So the entrepreneurs have, in fact, installed this, but we have to give the message to the, in fact, buyers that we are capable of producing the non-cotton goods. So, and if we see the country-wise exports, so in fact, the India, Japan, South Korea, and Australia, these are the emerging market. And if we see the composition of the regions, like in 2011-12, so EU had that 52%, and during that period, the UK was in the part of the EU. But now, if we see the, in fact, EU plus UK, now it's 54%. So that means we are, in fact, again concentrating in terms of the geography. But there are new other geographies, like in the Middle East. So it's becoming as an important destination, especially the UAE and the Saudi Arabia. So they are, in fact, importing our goods. And an interesting thing is that now we are producing the customized goods, like the customized R&D products for the Middle East market. So it's not the traditional kind of the T-shirt and other, in fact, shirts and, in fact, the denim products that. So we are, in fact, targeting to the non-conventional markets as well. But the interesting thing is that China has become as a confusing market. So there is no, in fact, regular trend in the export of our products to the Chinese market. So they have, in fact, given the 97% duty-free access to the products, so on, and there is discussion regarding its upgradation to 98%, but still, it's our in fact, exporters are not able to, in fact, export to the Chinese market. So it's now around $600 million to the Chinese market. But if we see the composition, the other countries and regions, so then North America, so initially it was, if we see the, in fact, data of 2011-12, it was 26%. Now its share has been reduced to 21%. So the concentration is moving towards the European Union, and there are some other regions which are emerging. So I have tried to list the, in fact, the countries in which Bangladesh export is going. So USA, Germany, UK, these are the consistently top markets. So and India has emerged as the 7th largest, considering the export of 2023 to 23. And the top destinations are mainly located to the EU and the North America. And Middle East is a promising market, so it is becoming as an important destination. And UAE has come to into the list of the top export destinations in 2022-23. And if we see the, in fact, RFD exports, then we can see that in fact, actually few products which are in fact explaining the performance of the RMD items. And if we see the destinations, then EU is 50%, and then USA and UK, as there are some other destinations like Canada, Japan, Australia, India. So, and interestingly, the Indian, in fact, buyers, they're basically the international buyers, so they are finding India as an important destination for Bangladeshi R&B products. And if you go to any kind of supermarket, so you'll find, in fact, a large number of Bangladeshi R&D items. So it's a very interesting thing. And if we see the kind of composition of the goods, then the trousers, so they are the most, in fact, dominant the items, and then the t-shirt and knitted shirts. So these are the second position, and the sweaters and shirts, and then undergarments. So these are basically the major items. And even though we are diversifying within these products, so diversification is happening in terms of the quality and the variety of products, as well as the, in fact, within groups, we can see the, in fact, cotton and non-cotton items. So these are happening. And then a little bit about the services sector. So if we see the kind of services that we export, then it's manufacturing services. So it's emerging. So it's basically not direct manufacturing, but the services related to manufacturing. So these are happening. And then transformation, like the sea and air transport. So these are important items in the, in fact, services export. And then, in fact, educational tourism related to travel. So these are happening. So and these are emerging as an important component in the services export. And then construction related service, financial service. And particularly, we have an important sector like the IT-enabled sector. So if we see the emergence of our freelancers, and there are other, in fact, individuals and entrepreneurs, they are coming out and they're contributing to the global service sector of the IT-enabled services. And then there are others like, I mean, the professional and services, and the technical and trade related services, like, I mean, the both import and export. So we are providing a lot of services. And then government services is also an important thing, and then office maintenance and establishment expenses of international organizations, diplomatic services. So these are included in the services. But in order to transform our economy into a knowledge-based economy, as per the Vision 2041 document, and then we want to become a smart Bangladesh. So, and for the transition towards that direction, so the IT-enabled services and the, in fact, computer and ICT-related services, that should dominate. But what we see, the government services is the top, in fact, the #1 services that we export, and in the computer related services, these are not that significant, but it has a position. Okay, what is the, in fact, composition of the destination? So USA, in fact, 19%, a very interesting thing. So initially back into 2019-20, so the USA was the topmost destination, but its contribution was 70%. But now we see its contribution is 19%. And then China, so initially, in fact, in 2019-20, so its contribution was 13%, and it has reduced to 11%. And there are some other, in fact, destinations in which we are doing well. And some of the, in fact, destinations are emerging as an important destination of our service export, like the UK is a very important destination. And our, in fact, freelancers, they are, in fact, feeling it convenient to export their services to the UK and other, in fact, developed countries. So that's a very important thing. And then Japan is very interestingly, even though they are technologically excelled, but still we are exporting our, in fact, services to that country. And few others, like, I mean, the UAE, Germany, so they are becoming as important destinations. And then if we see the mission-wise exports, then we can see that some of the missions like the Madrid, Tokyo, Canberra, Seoul, Singapore, so they are performing well despite manifold challenges in the financial front and the squeeze of the in fact, global economy over the last 3-4 years. So, but the problem is that there is an inconsistency. So if you see the USA is number 1 in terms of services export, but still, and Germany, so these are important, and UK. But the problem is that the performance is not that consistent. So that is an important thing, and they have the commercial wings. So we have 19 missions in which we have the commercial wing. So in most of the cases, they are performing well. So in terms of the value of services export, but there is still room for goods and services export in room where we can in fact improve. So I have some specific recommendations in the last part of my presentation. And then if we see the mission-wise goods export without commercial wings, then we can see that there are some important, in fact, destinations and missions through which we are exporting well, like Italy, Rome, and then Netherlands, Poland, Denmark, Sweden, and Austria, Turkey. So these are, in fact, top destinations through and missions through which we are exporting our goods, even though they don't have the, in fact, commercial wings. And then if we see the services export, then we see that London, Tokyo, Brussels, Geneva, Ottawa, Madrid, Canberra, so they are performing well. So they have the commercial wings. And if we see the other missions where there is no commercial wing, so then we can see that the Hong Kong, and its particular specialty is that Hong Kong is the 3rd largest, in fact, so in terms of, in fact, export of services, even though it doesn't have any commercial wing. So, so there is a scope of, in fact, reprioritizing the commercial wing, or in fact, setting up the commercial wing in the missions where there is no commercial wing. And now it's in fact almost at the end of my presentation. So we have identified the highest priority sectors and special development sectors in our export policy. And I think the export policy is quite comprehensive in nature, and it has identified the goods and services in the where we need to, in fact, give priority and also provide or channel the incentives and provide the policy incentive. And if we see the other documents like the 8-5-year plan and also the national tariff policy, and national tariff policy has identified an important thing, which is the anti-export bias. So what is the anti-export bias? So we have a kind of, in fact, preference structure, duty structure, and the other, in fact, kind of incentive that encourages both domestic entrepreneurs and the foreign entrepreneurs to produce the goods for the domestic market. So that is basically in very, in fact, plain language, the anti-export biases. So this is happening for a quite long time. So it has been identified by the national tariff policy, and government is reprioritizing and in fact devising the in fact incentive structure. So I already mentioned this, and the thing is that as I mentioned in the first part of my presentation, so the inflation is the biggest problem in the global landscape. And despite the pressure of inflation, so the export, in fact, earning of Bangladesh has not hampered that much. So that is a good thing, but we could export, in fact, a bigger volume. So that could happen if the, in fact, the global inflation that had not been, in fact, increased in that way, in a terrifying way. So this is number 1. And then the number 2 is that the monetary policy. So we see that the, in fact, policy interest rate have gone up across the world. So that had not happened in the in fact, modern history of the world. So and the government of Bangladesh, even though in the initial stages the government waited and has not, in fact, increased the policy rate, but very recently, in order to curb inflation, so government had to, in fact, it was compelled to introduce a kind of high interest rate and introduce a smart interest rate, and in fact, introducing the in fact, bonds, different kind of bonds. So that is happening. So this is basically the number 1 issue. And if we see the global inflation map of 2023, produced by IMF, so it's the latest data, then we can see that in many important destinations of Bangladesh, especially the exports of Bangladesh, so there's a high inflation. ranging from 3 to 10%. So, and if you see the Latin American market, so even though initially we identified it as an important destination, emerging destination, so Latin America is also suffering from high inflation. And in Argentina, so we see that it's 161%. So that is very unusual kind of thing. And in Brazil, we also see that high inflation, and in Australia, 10%. So, but the thing is that very peculiar thing is that if you go to the supermarkets, then you will find the prices of the, in fact, basically the food items. So they have not gone up, but maybe there are some other items. So that in which we can see the inflation. And the other thing is that the developed countries are recovering, but the developing and in fact emerging markets that are still struggling, and these are basically our main export destination, except the traditional destinations. So, and based on this background, so I have some recommendations. I'll be going quickly. So the South America, so Africa, Middle East, Europe, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asian countries. So these should be treated as an important priority for the government, as an in fact important destination. So of the in fact, and in that particular in fact regions, Bangladesh economic diplomacy, which is in fact charted by the Honorable Prime Minister and directed the relevant missions. So, and it should be the in fact most important tool as a foreign policy instrument to in fact expand our export destinations. And then we need to encourage the new products and diversification within the products. So that's very important. So within the RMG, we have a lot of scope to diversify, and the entrepreneurs should be rewarded. Nowadays, we see that the trophy is given, and we are in fact identifying the CIPs. So, but the thing is that the in fact exporters who are in fact doing in fact diversification and in fact coming up with the new products. So even though they are contributing significantly to set the future goal or future course of action, they are not rewarded. So that's an unfortunate thing. So I think in fact, Commerce Ministry and other government agencies, they should in fact identify the entrepreneurs who are in fact changing the landscape of the in fact of the export through diversification. And if they don't in fact export that much, still they should be rewarded and they should be acknowledged. And policy supports and benefits to all sectors, not only the RMG. But nowadays, what we see, the RMG sector is taking up the benefits, most of the benefits, but the small ones like the light engineering and others like the diversifying sectors, so they are not getting that benefit. So sometimes we see that the diversifying sectors, so they are complaining that they are not getting the loan from the banks. And there are many other things that are constraining their potential. And then commercial wing should be established in the missions, as I already mentioned, Hong Kong and few others that I already listed. So in which definitely there is a scope of in fact establishing the commercial wing. And then women entrepreneurs, they should be encouraged. They have the ability to identify the potential market. So I think they should be encouraged. Nowadays, we see that most of them, in fact, male entrepreneurs, they dominate the list of CIPs. So I think there is a scope of, in fact, including the women who are contributing. And then environmental issues. So nowadays, we see that we have the 76 platinum, in fact, certified the RMG factories, and the 116, in fact, gold and the 10 silver, but it is not, in fact, translating into the gains from trade. So that is very unfortunate part. So I think we all have the duty to convey the message that we are the most, in fact, committed towards the environmental sustainability in terms of production of R&D goods and others. So, and definitely our missions should have this kind of, in fact, message to the global community of buyers. And the activities and performance of the Business Promotion Council. So that's very important, but the meeting is not held regularly, and their priorities should also be, and their performance should also be reviewed, so periodically. So that's not happening. So I think the Ministry of Commerce and other government ministries, they will in fact review their performance periodically. And then my final words, like I mean, the support of the developed countries. So it's very much important, and also the development partners. So they are in fact always beside us. So in all in fact aspects and steps of development, strides towards development of the country, from the poverty reduction to the in fact infrastructure and also the market access. I think their support should be continued after the LDC graduation. So in market access, and then Bangladesh needs to sign the FTA. So possibly with the Mercosur and then if possible with the ASEAN, because we need to expand our, in fact, export base and footprint to this destination. And the non-traditional market is very important. In the traditional markets, we have, in fact, we have been saturated. So if we don't, in fact, significantly, in fact, revise our, in fact, production type and the products, then definitely it's not possible in the short run, but we have to in order to remain competitive in the international market. But if we go to the, in fact, non-traditional destination, then definitely it will keep a kind of privilege or an upper hand in the short to medium run. And finally, so in fact, if we see the, in fact, the products like and services like the, in fact, transport, tourism, ICT, and especially the, in fact, the light engineering items. So they have a immense potential. And if we see the other items like electronic goods, so they also have a tremendous potential. So if we can attract the investors from both from domestic and, in fact, international landscape to the special economic zones, as we identified 97 plus 3, in fact, the economic zones, special economic zones. So definitely it will, in fact, change the, in fact, alter the landscape of the production base and in fact, help the diversification and increase the export earning of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahfuz Kabir, for your detailed presentation, which would make it easier for the discussants to elaborate their interventions. Now we are inviting Professor Dr. Mohammad Jahangir Alam to deliver his remarks. He is from the background of agriculture and has a lot of thoughts on diversification, industrial as well as processing, and also other diverse kinds of diversification in the sector, which is the basis of our a strong basis of our economy. Dr. Jahangir Alam.
Diversification and dynamics in the global markets. Seminars, honorable chair, chief guest, we are expecting, and then special guest, panelist, media, the audience. Good morning to everyone. So before I start my remarks on the topic economic diversification and dynamics in the global markets, I'd like to start with the term like what has been used in the natural resource management, like the Dutch digest syndrome. So what does that mean? In that if any country depends on the one or like more than one single sectors for the global income. So in Bangladesh, it's the RMG and then the foreign remittance. So what we have learned during the COVID term, that our honorable Prime Minister always mentioning that we must have more sectors or the diversified sectors to earn more income from the international market, that is agriculture, and there is huge potential on the agriculture. So I would like to compare with that situation that if we want to, for example, like in the policy documents, like in the prospective plan, like in the 8 5-year plan, the diversification or the foreign income diversification is actually highlighted in all these documents. So this is the agriculture, in fact, and then I'm going to give some remarks on the agricultural diversification and the export potential. So, you know that during the last couple of decades, that agriculture has been performing very well in irrespective of any sectors, like within the agriculture. If we look at the crop, if we look at the livestock, if we look at the aquaculture and then other related agriculture sector, we see that there has been a tremendous growth in the last couple of decades, and particularly in the last decade. So if I want to share some numbers, for example, like what the keynote speakers already said some numbers, but like we are second in jute production, we are third in rice production, then we are sixth in pulses production, seventh in the spices, we are eighth in the tea, and then also like guava, mango sector, we are ninth, and then in the illicit production, we are first. So there are like at least more than 12 different agricultural production. So we are in the rank of like the top 10 in the country in terms of like the aggregate production. If we look at the growth of agricultural production, so in terms of like the total in the grain production, it was like in 2006, 2.61 crore tons. But in 2019, just before COVID, it increased or it's gone up to 4.3 crore tons. But in all other fish, meat, milk, egg, rice, vegetables, spices, we've seen that the growth rate was tremendously very high. And then in many of the cases, like we are in the surplus position now, if we compare like the previous decades. So what I want to say from these numbers, that there has been like huge production increase, but also agricultural diversification happened in the last couple of decades. Though we know that still rices are staple, but it's about 72 to 73% of total cultivated land is occupied by rice, but the remaining just 27% of cultivated rice, we are just producing other like more than 30 different crops, and the such as like the spices, fruits, vegetable, etc. If we look at the changes, that what we have seen, the changes actually happening in last 10 decades is the top one is the fruits. So in terms of agricultural diversification, we know the pace is, though it's not huge, but still we can see there is huge changing happening in many of the agricultural crops or the food crops that I already said there. And then if we just look at, for example, I give some numbers that Bangladesh Integrated Household Survey of International Food Policy Research. So this is a kind of like the panel survey they did, and then I share you some numbers. For example, like from 2011 to 2015 and 2018 that we surveyed, and then we found that there is a kind of like the agricultural diversity score is like 3 to 4. What does that mean? That means in every farm households, they are producing like 3 to 4 different, though we know that 73% of cultivated land is occupied by rice. And then if we look at some sort of like the index for examining the agricultural diversification, we also have found that there has been huge changes in the diversification, though we know that there is huge variability among the regions in the country. For example, the drastic change has been actually increased in the northwestern part of the country in terms of like the agricultural diversification, but in other parts, for example, like in the coastal area or the eastern part, it's less diversification actually occurred in those areas. So if we look at the export potential of these agricultural produces, we know that in last more than 1 decade of time, it's the frozen fish that actually the share is the highest. Like, for example, it's more than 50% of total agricultural produce being exported to the international market is coming from the aquaculture and the fish of the frozen fish and so on. But still, we have huge potential, particularly in the processed food or the processed commodities from different. We know that we are in the surplus in many of the agricultural production, but still we know that as because like agriculture is seasonal, although in many we have three different seasons, and then we are producing, for example, if we look at or if we talk about the fruits and vegetables, particularly for the vegetables, we are now producing summer vegetables. But still, because of lack of the availability or the opportunities in the processing, that many of the products actually being wasted because we can't store or just we can't produce. So there is huge potential, particularly in the processing sectors. And then we know that during this COVID time, we found that there is huge demand of the processed food in some of the countries, particularly in the Middle East or the Far East and so on. And then, so we can process and then we can export the processed food commodities to that particular region. I would like to give one example. For example, how to do that one. Just recently, just I myself with the team completed one project that's called the One Country, One Priority product, that is the jackfruit. So we know that we are producing huge amount of jackfruit in every year, but like more than 40% of total production actually being wasted during this production because of lack of further processing facilities and so on. So this is one of the product that the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations targeted to promote to the international market. And the second product they already identified as mango. Though we see that there is huge progress, particularly in the mango processing, but for the jackfruit producing, this is our national fruit. I myself visited some of the East Asian countries and see that they are producing many products, many byproducts from using jackfruit, for example, like the chips or the juice, etc., etc. So we can tap these facilities and then we can promote the agricultural products like jackfruit or the mangoes to the international market. There is one study from the World Bank, and then I give some numbers. For example, there is huge potential which is untapped actually from the agriculture, and then we cannot tap the export potential, and then we know it's, for example, like the shrimp, and then the fruits and vegetables and so on. So we can tap or we can process those products and then target to export to the international market. But there are some challenges as well, like infrastructure and hygiene in processing, for example, in the country, and then the insufficient guarantee of quality control. We don't have that much of facilities like fit for human consumption certificate providing, because if we want to export the processed foods or the agricultural commodities or foods to the international market, we need to focus a lot on that. Though I know that recently the Bangladesh Ministry of Agriculture has been working to establish one quality control laboratory in the Purvachal area, but also like developing the good agricultural practices. But in addition, the Ministry of Agriculture has been working and then almost at the final stage, developing the agricultural marketing policy, focusing a lot on that, how to actually tap the export potential by exporting agricultural and then processed agricultural commodities to the international market. We actually had some difficulties or some bad reputation when we were just attempting to export agricultural commodities to the international market, and particularly the nitrofuran compounds in some consignment or identified, and then the export was actually banned in the European market. But also like the diversifying of the agricultural product or commodities. For example, what I said that is like 50% of the total export is coming from shrimp or the fish or the aquaculture, but we should diversify this agricultural export commodities to the international market. So my last comment that as the country is actually graduating out and then we are targeting to achieve some of the milestone in the coming years or the coming decades. So we'll have to actually diversify our economy, and then also in that regard, we need to diversify our agricultural commodities exports to the international market to fulfill the what we are aspiring in the prospective plan and the 8 5-year plan and other policy documents. So that's in brief my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jahangir Alam, for your focused intervention on agriculture. The next speaker, next discussant will be Dr. Muhammad Din Islam, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Session Chair. His Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Senior Secretaries and Secretaries from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Commerce, and Ministry of Agriculture. And also we have Honorable MP, Member of Parliament. A very good evening to you all. So I would like to appreciate the effort of bringing the Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Foreign Affairs to emphasize the role of Ministry of Foreign Affairs in diversifying and facilitating our export. So I was a part of a research team of RAPID, Research and Policy Integration for Development. We did a number of studies on export diversification. So I would like to thank the keynote presenter. He did an excellent job giving a very comprehensive overview of the state of export and barriers and other constraints. So I would like to complement the keynote paper with the findings that we found in our research. So most often we focus too much on production side. What are the constraints in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure constraint, in terms of energy, but we often ignore or we often forget the importance of marketing and importance of market research. So in our research, we talked to 4 major export sectors in addition to RMG. Those are leather sector, footwear, agro-processed, and light engineering. So what we found is not that they have like so many production technology constraint or production side constraint. What we have found is mostly they actually don't know. There's a huge gap in information. Bangladeshi producer, Bangladeshi manufacturer, they don't know in which country, especially in developed country, there's a demand for their products. So they especially they don't have very dedicated market research team. They don't know that which country they can sell, they have competitive advantage for their products. And if for some farm, some producer, even if they know that there is some demand, they don't know what are the regulatory requirements to export in that market. In developed countries, there's a lot of regulatory and documentation requirement. and they don't know how to produce those documents, how to satisfy those requirements. And information about, currently Bangladesh is now a member of least developed country, although we are going to be graduated soon. So as a LDC member, currently Bangladesh receive a lot of trade advantage in developed countries. So exporters, especially from medium and small industries, they don't know what are the advantages they can receive if they export in Europe or in USA. And also, they have no idea what are the frontier varieties and how to produce those frontier varieties by using frontier technology. So there is a lot of a huge gap in innovation. So in this regard, I would like to appreciate Ministry of Commerce. They actually initiated the process of developing Bangladesh Trade Portal, in which they are trying to provide all this information about the foreign markets, about the regulatory requirement. But as the keynote presenter mentioned that it's very dynamic, export market is very dynamic. The rules and regulation are changing very frequently. And the demand for certain products is also very changing in nature. So Ministry of Commerce sitting in Dhaka in their office is extremely difficult for them to track all these changes in different corners of the world. So in this case, Ministry of Foreign Affairs can play an extremely crucial role. They can, I think the most effective way is Ministry of Foreign Affairs, especially the commerce wing of different missions, can collaborate with the Ministry of Commerce in collecting this information. Which products, Bangladesh products, has potential in which developed country market? What are the regulatory requirements? What are the changing in this regulatory requirement? And also how to produce this item. So for example, in China or in India, they might be inventing, discovering a lot of new varieties of the same product and how to produce them more efficiently with better quality. Those type of production site information also need to be disseminated. Mostly in our small and medium industries, these are mostly like family-based business. They don't know how to do this research by their own. And if Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Foreign Affairs can do this research, generate this knowledge, and knowledge is a kind of public good. It does not have high marginal cost in dissemination. So that would be extremely helpful. That we found in our research, that if we can inform them that their product have demand in these markets and how to market this product in the developed country, there can be many interested producer in Bangladesh who will be trying to export their product in those markets. Secondly, another important point is that Bangladesh generally is not recognized for non-RMG high quality products. So we did a lot of consultation meetings, and they actually complained that we can produce very high quality lead acid battery, but we are not getting the market price. The buyer in Middle East, they are not ready to pay the price that they pay to Chinese supplier, to Bangladeshi supplier, because Bangladesh is not recognized. Bangladesh country image is solely based on RMG. So in this case, Ministry of Foreign Affairs can also play an extremely important role. So country image, if the commerce wing can disseminate the information about the high quality product to the potential buyer in developed country, and also can regularly showcase in terms of trade fair and other invited presentation, I think that would help creating Bangladesh image for other non-RMG products. So it's extremely important to get the right price for the high quality product. Otherwise, it will not be possible to diversify away from the RMG. Another important thing, so we mostly focus on the production side, but in case of global market, we say there is a smiling curve. So in smiling curve, the production has only a tiny fraction of value. The most value is actually goes to in marketing, in research and development, and all these other activities that are required to produce a product. So in case of those smiling curve, most of the sector, most of the producers are actually in the bottom of this smiling curve. So if you want to move to upper portion in other value-added activities, so what we need to integrate more to global value chain. So to export in developed countries, generally their marketing, they generally sell their product using the chain stores. And also there are some products that require after-sale services. So for example, light engineering, especially the consumer electronics products, that products requires extended period of after-sale services. So Bangladesh, the Walton, we actually visited the factory of Walton. So Walton actually producing very high quality fridge and AC and those items. But they are not able to enter into the main European market, let alone the US market. They are regularly participating in global consumer electronics fair, but still they find it hard to enter into Europe and US. One reason is that they don't have enough investment to establish the service center in Europe and US. So if Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Commerce can collaborate to connect these Bangladeshi exporters, potential exporters, with the chain store and brands in the Europe and in US, so that they can sell their product through those chain stores and through those brands. And that thing I think we found it very important for enabling them Bangladeshi exporter to learn from them how to provide after sale services, and also it will give them enough time to develop their capacity to provide these after sale services. So integrating more with the global value chain is extremely important, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs can play an extremely important role in this case. And another thing, most of the Bangladeshi exporters, they don't know how to package their product. So if you are exporting agro-processed food item, and if you are selling something canned item, and if people in developed country find it difficult to open your can, in that case nobody will buy it. And if someone is exporting potato chips, and if their packet is extremely difficult to tear it down, then people won't buy it in developed country. So packaging and important information on packaging, people, generally exporters or producers in Bangladesh, they are not aware about it, that how to package a product, what information should they put on the packaging. So this is another important barrier, and this is just a simple of information, collecting information in the export market and disseminating it to the Bangladeshi potential exporters. So these are the very less costly measures that can be taken by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in collaboration with Ministry of Commerce. And then another important thing is very often if you want to export non-RMG products, the safety or the regulatory requirement is very high. So for example, for agro-processed food items, so if you want to export in Europe or in US, you need to do a lot of testing. You need to do a lot of certification. So generally, Bangladesh does not have this capacity. In many cases, the agro-processed exporter need to go to Singapore or India to do this testing. And that actually increases their cost of export. So if Ministry of Commerce can mobilize the BSTI, Bangladesh Standard and Testing Institute, and make it more capable of doing all this type of testing in cheaper way and faster way, That will actually enable the potential exporter to export more. And another thing is that especially for agro-processed item or even consumer electronics, Bangladesh does not have any requirement, or at least they don't need to follow any requirement. So recently, EU has banned exporting any pickle or any item, any agro-processed food item that contain mustard oil. So what is the problem? Problem is that the urea content of mustard oil produced in Bangladesh is too high. But in Bangladesh, there is no requirement that you need to use what is the limit of urea that you can have in your ingredients. So the problem is that our domestic requirement is non-existent, or if exist, is not followed. And that is a problem, because if we don't ensure the domestic requirement, then they won't find it very profitable to maintain those high requirement, and do the exporting. So I think it's also important, especially for food items, to ensure the safety and the other requirements in the domestic market. And if you can do that, then there will be many more producers who will find it profitable and easy to export in other markets. So finally, I'd like to thank BIISS for arranging such an important topic. Since we are graduating out of LDC in November 2026, and the apparel or the RMG sector is heavily, still the tariff is too high in many countries, in many developed countries. So to sustain our economic growth, to sustain to ensure the employment of the growing population, we need to diversify away from the RMG. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Din Islam, for sharing with us your research findings, and also thank you for your recommendations. We'll now invite Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahadat Hossain Siddiqui to deliver his remarks. He is a specialist on labor markets and job markets. His emphasis will be that sector.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I should show my gratitude to the BISS for inviting me to speak on the service sector diversifications and importance of the service sector diversifications. Today here, Honorable Chair of the session, special guests, distinguished panelists, and audience. First of all, I should tell about what is the relative. Basically, I should start with the relative importance of the service sector. Then actually it will give us the idea what we should do and what are the gaps within our country and compared to our neighboring country. So if we have a look at the history of Bangladesh since 1972 to 22. So if I take the average of the 51 years, what we find? Actually, we find that the GDP growth 4.6, agriculture 2.7, industry 7.5, and 4.6. Even this is the historical perspective. So from that perspective, actually, we should know what is the importance, even from the relative contributions of the sectoral contributions to the GDP. We say that around 50%, 48 to 58 ranges. So the half of the GDP comes from the service sector. So in that sense, we know how much importance it is. Even 1% growth could give half of your plate. So this is the perspective of the service sector. And another importance of the service sector is whatever my two previous panelists discuss about the agriculture, even the industry perspective, that means diversification of products. All sectors, basically, I could say service sector is embedded within the wall sectors. Even the first panelist, Jahangir Alam, rightly mentioned about we produce, but some things are damaged, agricultural products in case of potato and many other products. So that means we don't know how to get the services for the storage. That means we don't have enough capacity for the storage. Well, first of all, now I would like to say from the perspective of the relative contributions of the service sector, if we say what is the export contributions of our service sector, it is very negligible. It is very negligible in a sense. We say Bangladesh is a economic, you can say economic model of the South Asian country in many perspectives, in many development indicators. We are leading. In case of human development index, if you have a look at the indicators of human development index, we are doing great. But in terms of, if we say, yes, now we are concerned with the service sector, what is our relative contributions? We are far, far, far lagging behind India. For example, I would like to say Bangladesh economy exported 7.5 billion worth of services in the last fiscal year. That means this is the fiscal year of 22-23. In fiscal year 21-22, we exported around $8 billion. That means in recent years, just if we compare the 2 years, it means that it is declining. Even if we have a look at the other countries, like China is the largest exporter, which is 392 billion, which is very high, even followed by India, which is 241 billion. So if we compare the service sector export, it is 8 billion, around 7.5 billion, with India 241 billion. It basically gives us the intuition that we have a great scope to increase or to economies of scale. That means there is an economies of scale, so we can have the benefits from it. So economic diversification, basically, we want to say, Dr. Mahfouz has rightly addressed, basically, he mostly focused on the products diversification and one slides. It is not his limitations, because if you Googling, that means you don't find any kind of a robust research conducted in Bangladesh focusing on the service sector. That means what are the service sector relative relative or comparative scenario of Bangladesh, India, and other neighboring or competing countries of the service sector, such like. So we don't have any kind of rigorous research in the service sector. We can say that it is neglected in the research world. So without research, actually, we can't expect more fine-tuned or further innovations. So that actually create the problems of Bangladesh's service sector. And one thing is important, because if we have a look at the synergies, actually, export, Bangladesh actually started with the 9 RMGs in 1972, and it's now in 5,000 around industries. So, and if we have a look at the export earnings, it is in his presentation, that's around 85% of the export earnings comes from the RMG. So why RMG growth, and why RMG has, Dr. Din Islam has rightly mentioned about the reputations of the country, branding. So Bangladesh, RMG, in case of RMGs, it is branded. So Bangladesh is branded. That's why actually it was able to create the demands. But in case of the service, actually we need to create such kind of branding, because if we look at the figures, that means why? What is the global demand? We say that yes, because the world is advancing in terms of using technologies. That's why Bangladesh government also visioned about 2041, Smart Bangladesh Vision 2041. That means it would create another kind of market. So IT enabled persons, IT skilled persons, so digital skills. So that means we are establishing the universities. That means to what extent we are putting emphasis on creating such kind of peoples. So this is the lack from the policy perspectives, what we want, what is the global demand of the service sector, what are the gaps actually we have. That my main point is, from my perspective, because I did not do any research, just I wanted to skim through just to learn what is the situations of the service sector, where we are compared to the neighboring countries, what is our gaps, what is the global demands, and where we are. That means in that case, we are seriously lagging behind other competing countries. It means that we have a great scope to work with and enhancing the service sector to a upper level. That means if we want to take Bangladesh to a higher level in terms of exporting the service-oriented activities, human people, and other services. Even if we say Bangladesh in RMG successful, Dr. Mahfouz has rightly addressed some challenges because we are selling our product at lower price competing to our competitors. So in a sense, if 2026, after graduations, actually 3 years we will have in advance. Even Bangladesh government is trying to withdraw the incentives. So that will create pressure in 2026. Another pressure will be created on the RMGs. So in that case, prices will be increased. That will create more competitive environment for the Bangladeshi product. So in that case, to how much it would be competitive, whether we will lose market share. That's one concern. Another concern is we have reached, but within the RMG sector, in case of exports, there are different service sectors are also included. That means if you say, what are the customs procedures? That means I want to give you a brief that the governance structures within whatever we want to export and import, that means we pass through different stages. How all the stages work, that's the gets you the notion of services. So if we make the path smooth, that makes the things more effective. That's why my message is we want to work more research work, specifically focus on the service sectors. What do we mean by service sector, and what are the potential service sectors that we could develop and export to the other countries? That means having the ideas about the potential scope of earnings from the service sectors. So this is one thing. Another thing is the service sector providing agencies. That means how the governance structure is functioning and how we can improve those governance structure. Because why I'm telling this? Because I know that 1% increase in the service sector, the amount that we receive, that means the amount that we receive, if we increase another sector by double growth, that gives the same benefits. So increasing the same percentage growth in the service sector, that would help. Even if we look at the developed country, basically where they are, that means what is their compositions in terms of the sectoral contribution. That means they are, even for example, in the United States, 2/3 of their GDP basically comes from the service sectors. As we are aspiring to be the developed country by 2041, that's why it is important to put more emphasis in terms of giving more focus on the service sectors by allocating more resources in terms, first of all, we have to more provide incentive for the researchers to identify and to map out the overall scenarios of the service sectors in Bangladesh so that we could take the advantage, potential advantage of the service sectors in the time ahead. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahadat Hussain Siddiqui. I'd like to request now Professor Dr. Rozana Rashid to take the floor. Floor is yours, madam.
Honorable Chief Guest, special guests, distinguished keynote speaker, panelist, and the audience. A very good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. My gratitude for inviting me in this session. And today we are here to discuss our economic opportunities and the challenges and where we are going and what can be done. And this discussion, I think, would be incomplete if we don't look at one sector, that is the overseas labor migration, and also how we can actually increase the quality of the people who will go abroad. That is skill development, quality improvement. So my deliberation would be kind of complementary to the keynote speech. Of late, there is actually a lot of discussion on skills, employment, and economic growth in the country, and quality improvement through skill training and sending people abroad for overseas jobs. These are important part of our economy that has been recognized already. But why this is so important? If we just go to the number, like its percentage in our GDP, that is so nominal, like less than 6%, 5 point something, 5.2% of the GDP comes from remittances. Then why would we focus on this sector? Since this morning, I was listening to different, export, import, and the opportunities. So I was just thinking, then why should we focus on overseas labor migration? The answer is very easy. That is, we have a large population, huge potential, and we can actually make this a dividend. And through the development of human capital, we can actually create potential and opportunity for the country, for the economy. Currently, Bangladeshi people are actually working and living in 163 countries, but 80% of the people are living in 12 countries. They are working in 12 countries, and more precisely, 91% of the people are going to 12 countries. This is very surprising, and it indicates that we are concentrating on certain countries which needs our people for low skill work. And here comes the question of skill. In the Gulf region, I can say that the Middle East, which is heavily relied on our labor, migrant workers, Bangladeshi migrant workers, they receive 4 lakh to 6 lakhs, 400,000 to 600,000 skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled workers from Bangladesh every year. And women still comprises less than 15% of the total flow. The flow actually started in the 1970s and 80s as an individual initiative, but then over decades, it has become a national source of economy, remittance, and also well-being. And this Gulf corridor accounts for more than 65% of the total migration from Bangladesh, especially women. 55% of women are migrating to Saudi Arabia and UAE. And most Bangladeshi male labor migrants are employed in semi-skilled jobs, such as, and skilled jobs to some extent, such as construction work, cleaner, security guard, drivers, restaurant workers, hotel staff, and so on. And some of them are also technician. And female workers are employed in the domestic sector, as you know, and some of them are employed in garment sector. So over and above, we see the sector which started as a risk minimizing strategy for individuals, families, have become a national sector, national economic sector for the country. Last year, in 2023, we earned $23 billion, which contributed to our GDP. But then, why we are talking about quality improvement or the skills? Because the data shows that more than 27% of the Bangladeshis who are going abroad, this, where we have this huge potential, they are basically only 25% are skilled worker. And also within this 27%, there are a lot of questions about their skills, the quality and a standard of skill, and so on. So this carries several meaning for the economy of the country. First, semi-skilled, unskilled workers cannot take their families abroad because the destination country's national policy rarely allows these migrants to take their families. It indicates that migrants regularly return home to see the families. Secondly, these unskilled or semi-skilled jobs are precarious most of the time, causing exploitation and return of the migrants. And when they come back, more importantly, these small earners and remittance earners, they rarely find jobs and they rarely can match their skills and work here in the country. So this is the consequence of low skill migration from Bangladesh. And it is here the logic of quality enhancement lies. And we also know that the fourth industrial revolution is going on, and it actually give us new hopes for skill and employment through integration in the value chain in the global network. And also we know that from one prediction, World Economic Forum predicted that in future, a lot of jobs will be created in data analysis, in climate change, environmental management technologies, encryption, cybersecurity. But the question is, to what extent is our youth mass, our future generation, ready to exploit the opportunity? Unlike their educated and skilled counterpart who can go abroad and try their luck abroad, unskilled and less educated individuals actually face higher opportunities for recruitment abroad, but lower opportunities for success and success in terms of earning, in terms of settlement, everything. So what we see, although we sent around 13 lakh people abroad last year, 73% of the workers were unskilled, less skilled worker, and consequently, only a tiny fraction of Bangladeshi men and women have been able to reap the benefit of 4-year abroad, leaving others to, leaving themselves to fulfill the 3D jobs, the dirty, dangerous, and demanding jobs abroad. And the media report is full of stories about the vulnerabilities of unskilled workers at various stages of their migration. So the migration policies of the countries where they are going, the Middle East, Southeast Asian countries, they rarely allow them to take their families and also to get settled or renew their work as they want. And what is the solution then? The solution lies, number one, in skilling up our workforce and preparing them for decent and well-paid jobs, both at home and abroad. I'm focusing on overseas jobs. Dr. Shahadat has already mentioned about the service sector and home front. And enhancing this skill will increase migrants' prospect of filling out the much needed position in the developed countries. For example, we should think about sending people to other countries. We are talking about diversification and innovation. And from that point of view, we shouldn't focus only on the Middle East or the Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, but we can actually focus on USA, Canada, Australia, Japan, Europe, which have workers deficits, and they would require foreign workers to meet the demand in service and other sectors in future. And there are good chances of professionals and skilled people like doctors, engineers, IT professional, communication professional, biotechnologists. But we should also think about how we can actually skill up our other people who are less educated and prepare them for the different diversified markets worldwide. Now, the question is, what should be done for skill enhancement? We know that national skill development policy is there, and it actually paved the way for reforms and enhanced skills ecosystem in the country. And there are, a lot of youth men and women are trained every year, millions of them in different trades. And they categorize skilling like fresh skilling, upskilling, reskilling, entrepreneurship development, apprenticeship, and recognition of prior skill. In terms of initiative, these are definitely praiseworthy. But the question is, to what extent they can match the demand and supply of skill that we have in the world? Do we know that what kind of jobs are available in the world right now, and what kind of people are here to actually fulfill those labor markets? I doubt there is any study at all on this. And the second thing is the quality and standard of a skill. This is another area which needs attention. I can give you one example briefly. That is the female migrants who are going abroad for domestic work. They have to take compulsory training from Bangladesh. And if you just take a look at their standard of language, the kind of language they are learning from those kind of training, it's very easy to understand that these are not applicable at all. They have to learn it newly again while they're at the workplace. So the practicality, the standard, the usefulness of everything, we have to think about it newly. Although we have a good number of TTCs, in 2022-24, new technical training centers have been established by the government, and everything is given priority in terms of skills. We have a skill action plan, national skill action plan, everything. But then this demand and supply matching is very important. And if we really want to diversify the whole thing, and diversification is needed not only in terms of skills, but also in terms of destination, in terms of jobs, in terms of even the source areas in the country. We know that we have a belt that is dominated by migrant workers from Sylhet to Chittagong. But what about the other areas, the northern areas, the southern areas, the western areas of Bangladesh? It has to be, any quality improvement scheme has to be inclusive. It should include women. Women are still 15% of the total flow. So we should think about sending more skilled people, more gendered balanced people, more marginalized people. We should give them access to this kind of training. That is one thing. And the other thing is the destination. We should think about sending agricultural worker to Africa, for example. We are not thinking about it. We are just traditionally thinking about sending people to Gulf and other countries. But we need research on that. And more importantly, migration diplomacy. This is something I'm stressing for a long time. I'm talking about this because this is something which many other countries in the world are doing. They are monitoring the immigration border and asylum policies of different countries, and then they decide what kind of policy should be made from the sending country like Bangladesh. We can follow these, we can monitor it, and accordingly we can change our reform our policies, and that should be in line with our 5-year plans, overall economic plan. And another thing that is Bangladesh as a receiving country. Are we thinking that when Bangladesh will be, elevated to the middle income countries, it will also invite people to work in the country? There will be a lot of sector still. Already, it is inviting people at the professional and skill level. We have more than 15,000 people taking job every year for the last few years. But are we actually thinking how much revenue we can earn from that? And also, more recently, there are some regulations established that nobody will be able to work in Bangladesh without proper work permit and, without complying the regulations. That has come from the government declaration. But that is obviously a good initiative, but we should also think about Bangladesh as a host country, not only a sending country. And I would, conclude by saying that we need a lot of cooperation among different ministries. It is not only the task of Ministry of Overseas Employment and MOEWOE, Overseas Employment, but also MOFA, the Home Ministry. Every stakeholder has their own responsibilities, and the institutions, for example, the TTC, BMAT, even the organization, the BIRA recruitment agencies who are involved with this process, they should be brought in the scene so that they can contribute and they can actually play their own role in enhancing the quality of the people and the youths, and prepare them for the international labor market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rozana Rashid, for your very clear pointing of the requirement of skilling up and also other recommendations. With your remarks, we have now come to the part of open discussion. I'm opening the floor, and I'd like to, since we have not much time for this segment, we'd like to give preference first to the excellencies, the foreign diplomats, and then our local participants. So please, the floor is open for you. Request from the excellencies. I'll first give the floor to Mr. Salahuddin Qasim Khan, Honorary Consul General for Turkey, and then I recognize Ambassador Shamshar Mobin Chowdhury, sir, and then Ambassador Abdul Hannan, and sir, my very respected sir, Ambassador Dr. Iftekhar Ahmed Chowdhury. So in that order, Dr. Salahuddin Qasim Khan, please.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. I want to give a private sector perspective on a very important issue, the last item on the agenda on skills development. Bangladesh workers receive the lowest per capita remittances in South Asia. This is a World Bank statistic. And Ms. Rosanna has, I think, very aptly highlighted the areas which need to be done. Because the remittance sector, since we are under pressure in our foreign exchange, is an area where we can get immediate benefit by upskilling our workforce. And here I would suggest to the Foreign Ministry and the Ministry of Labor that we should, tell the receiving countries to set up training institutes in Bangladesh, like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, so that they can skill up the workforce to the requirement. And this should also be done for Japan, South Korea, so that these workers are trained to Japanese, Korean standards. So that would be my recommendation. And since Mr. Abul Kalam Azad, now Member of Parliament, is here, he has been very actively involved in skills development. So we need to put more focus on the National Skills Development Authority, which was set up under your during your period. I think they need to be more active and more effective. And regarding IT-enabled services, I think we should activate the regional colleges or put up like the Chuet, Ruet, the not only concentrated at Ruet, but the divisional colleges of engineering should be encouraged to go into this sector to enable more IT-enabled skilled people who we can not only use in the country, but also send abroad. Sir, as a former president of the Bangladesh-Japan Chamber of Commerce, I would like to propose that we need to take advantage of our strategic partnership with Japan under the Big B initiative to attract FDI from Japan. I think we are in a good position today, say, compared to Myanmar, where investments will be moving out because of the uncertain situation in that country. And more importantly, Bangladesh needs to fast-track negotiations to enter RCEP, which will open up a huge potential market of Japan, South Korea, China, ASEAN, Australia. It is the single largest trading bloc, and Bangladesh must be a member as we graduate from our LDC status to a middle income status. Presently, Bangladesh has only one FTA with Bhutan. Somehow we are allergic to signing FTAs, but will be left behind if we do not enter not only bilateral FTAs, but multilateral trading arrangement by RCEP. And at the regional level, we need to refocus on Southeast Asian region, particularly the regional economic giant Indonesia, with a consumer market of 200 million plus, as it emerges as the seventh largest economy in the world by 2050. Regretfully, we have not focused on this important economic partner. Our focus somehow has been up to Malaysia. We need to refocus on Indonesia by upgrading our mission in Jakarta. In the past, there was the IPEC, the Indonesia-Pakistan Economic Cooperation Structure. We need to reactivate our economic relationship with Indonesia through the SEACU initiative of regional cooperation in the OIC countries in Southeast Asia, which was supported by the President of Indonesia, Dr. B.J. Habibie, and the IDB President, Mr. Muhammad Ali Madani. The present government has been a supporter of the initiative, and a resolution of this was taken at the 9th OIC summit in Doha in 2000. I would make a strong appeal to the Senior Secretary of the Foreign Ministry to kindly look into the idea how we can move the proposal forward. In conclusion, we need to enhance the Look East policy for economic diversification and global market, Bangladesh's opportunity and way forward if you want to become a developed country by 2041. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd request the next speaker, our intervention to be, please be precise and very short, brief. Sir, yes, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman BISS and Honorable Foreign Minister is also here now. I thank the BISS for this initiative of holding this seminar today. I'll be as brief as I can, and I'll focus mainly on the keynote paper that was read out by Dr. Mahfouz Kabir, very exhaustive. My only two comments on the keynote paper, the two weaknesses of the keynote paper, is the order in which the issues have been addressed. First of all, I think in the comparative part of the chart that he has shown GDP growth, etc., he has mentioned Western countries and India and China and Bangladesh, but missed out Vietnam, which is perhaps the most comparable country to Bangladesh in terms of economic growth, starting from history, from the time period, the 70s till today. So that should be a real area of focus. The other weakness of that keynote paper, that a very priority issue should be FTAs, free trade agreements. Vietnam, which started around the same time as us, has by now 16 free trade agreements. 11 of them are bilateral, 6 of them are multilateral. And when I was ambassador in Vietnam, they were already discussing a free trade agreement with the United States of America, one-time enemy of Vietnam. We have only one preferential trade agreement, and that too with Bhutan. Somehow there is a fear, perhaps the Tariff Commission, about free trade agreements, that we lose money. But if we're talking of diversification, FTAs are the best way to proceed. They bring in investment, they create job opportunities, and as a result lead to export and perhaps diversification of exports. So that, I think, should be a priority matter for us. My last comment is on the paper read by Dr. Rosanna. I think the need for diversification on all products we discussed, including manufacturing, agriculture, job market, etc. But this is an old story that we need to diversify. We've been saying this for the last 20 years. But I think only Dr. Rosanna pointed out why we have not been able to do that. We hope we're able to do that. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Salahuddin Kashim has raised a very, very important issue, is focusing on the East with special focus on one of the fastest growing economies, which is understated in our studies, is Indonesia. That is really an area we should now focus on. It's not for manpower export, but for really high-tech, developed export. We're looking for Indonesia's property market. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. The next, the floor goes next to Ambassador Hannan.
Thank you, Chair. I must thank the presenter keynote speaker for his brilliant paper. But since the topic is export diversification and its way forward, then I would like to focus on that. I'll give some few points. I consider it is relevant to the topic. Bangladesh is a LDC, from LDC to a developing country we graduated. It is because of the international support measures under multilateral trading system. So these support measures in Bangladesh context, it is the support measures of the government, support benefits the exporters got in terms of their export, and it is focused on only garments and textiles. So I believe that we don't have much time for the transition. It is up to 2029 maximum for the European Union market. So can we extend these same facilities, rationalize it, not focusing only on garments, to other sectors emerged as per the keynote speakers, indication that there are some sectors, subsectors are emerging. So whether these support measures could be extended in terms of rationalizing the overall package government has had, for the export promotion, and it should be equally extended and inclusive of some of the emerging sectors for the transition period. So now the point is whether this transition period, which has been agreed upon in the multilateral trading system for 2026 and for European Union 2029, it could be extended. Yes, there is a huge diplomacy going on through Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Commerce and our WTO mission in Geneva. So now this is the time to refocus on also how much we can get benefit in terms of the extended transition period. That will ultimately define in terms of consequence to give more benefits to our sectors which are emerging. And third point is adaptation with the technology for the overall productivity. Otherwise, possibly there is no way out. Yes, there is the technical transformation, the keynote speaker mentioned, but it should be seen in all sectors. And the fifth point is the awareness of the private sector, because they are the ultimate beneficiary and the deliverer. Whether they are ready to, transform themselves to diversify. It is not government can do. So whether the government should be spoon feeding them all the time, is it the way for diversification? This is no way. So this is the time for to embrace the private sector with this challenge and to have a joint effort to face this challenge and go forward. And sixth point is diversification is linked with foreign direct investment and technology transfer. I think the presenter possibly, because the time constraint, could not mention about the intellectual property issue. And that is the crucial issue for the overall, investment package and the technology transfer. Otherwise, Bangladesh will not get anything. Absolutely impossible. So, and the other point is global standardization. Whether each and every product emerging are following the global standards. Otherwise, we cannot possibly diversify. And my final point is policy reform. Whether this policy reform is investment friendly, diversification friendly, and whether it is truly transparent, whether it has the integrity, predictability, transparency, and it is implementable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for raising very valid and crucially important points. I now give the floor to His Excellency Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed Chaudhary.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, I had the brief privilege of having a meeting with you very recently at an airport. I want to congratulate you on your and Chairman, you, of course, you're in a very apt position. Could I cut the chase and speak directly to some points? Much has been discussed about the graduation from LDCs. Now, it's both a boon and a bane. It's a boon because obviously it improves our global image and gives us better credit ratings, which in theory should allow us to borrow more cheaply on the world market. It's a bane because we would lose trade preferences, such as under the EU's everything but arms. Note, though, Bangladesh has not been able to quite optimize on those advantages as yet. Now, to overcome these challenges, our comparative advantage, of course, would have to be transformed to a competitive advantage. One, low wages tend to perpetuate poverty. So, wage rise would need to be carefully calibrated with increase in productivity. Two, of course, the diversification. Professor Siddiqui, Ambassador Shamsher Mobin Chaudhry, Mr. Salahuddin Qasim Chaudhry, we've all spoken to this. In this particular regard, diversification is key because, as with regard to preferences, they do not face goods tariff. Three, the internet sector, on which the government and the Honorable Prime Minister are very appropriately laser focused, could help Bangladesh leapfrog into economic modernity. For the pharmaceutical sector, should seriously reflect on how to navigate WTO regulations on trade in intellectual property or TRIPS. For instance, I'm mentioning, say, compulsory licensing, etc. 5, individual mutually beneficial agreements with RTAs, which is regional trading arrangements, like ASEAN, RCEPA, should be explored to unblock potentials. Those selectively, and I use the word selectively advisedly, as the implications of FDAs, of course, between developed and developing countries would need would merit more serious research for maximal outcome. Professor Rosanna Rashid, I think, mentioned about upskilling labor, etc. Excellent idea, of course, and we have to take advantage of that. But that is where some FTAs run into problems. I know for certain that, say, the problem between India and Singapore with regard to their FTAs is the dispatch of white-collared Indian labor, that is Indian workers, to Singapore. Many developed countries are opposed to what was in the WTO terms known as movement of natural persons, which is actually a WTO regulation norm, but which is not always catered to by countries who are developed for obvious reasons. Now, as PR, I have been PR in Geneva for many years, and my predilection is actually in sympathy with, say, people like Jagdish Bhagwati and all that sort of thing, because sometimes I think that we cannot rely on preferential treatment because preferences tend to prolong pain. I still believe the sooner we confront the real world of competition, the better we are. The graduation can be the breakout moment to reflect on reforms, on raising productivity, or boosting growth. Efforts must be directed towards moving up the value chain by attracting quality. Again, I stress quality FDI. The Foreign Ministry, of course, can aid our captains of industry in the private sector by nimble diplomacy and effective market identification. And this has been spoken of by one of the presenters. This should provide the intellectual matrix if needs be, for out-of-box thinking. For us, as we enter the graduation phase, readiness is all. We all do well to remember that if there is a hill to climb, waiting will not make it any smaller. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, sir, for your voice of wisdom and comments with good points of recommendation for us. We have yes, sir. We have two more persons to intervene. One is General Harun, and another is Mr. M.S. Siddiqui from the business sector. So General Harun and Mr. Siddiqui afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me this opportunity. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate you for making this seminar. I think it is one of the most important factors at this part of our national life. I would like to take advantage of congratulating our Foreign Minister, as I see him for the first time since his assumption of office as a Foreign Minister, and also the first visit to BISS. So welcome, sir, to your institution. Mr. Chair, I think there are very strict time limit. I would like to restrict only on 2 points, though I have very few written down. First of all, I just want to make a suggestion when we are talking about the market diversification in the world context. You know that Bangladesh armed forces are being deployed across the world on the peacekeeping mission. And every time we go to a country, we stay there for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. Even some countries we have been there for about 10 years. The people create a goodwill. We have been communicating with the business community to develop our business in those countries. Particularly as I see to our neighboring countries like India, wherever the Indian troops are deployed, it is the Indian contractors who supply their needs. Whereas in our case, none of the Bangladeshi contractor ever tried to develop their supply route. Though we have had many times visits from our media, even some what you call business person also visited, but never it has come up to the benefit of the country. So I think somewhere the foreign ministry, if they can intervene in developing the business relationship with those countries where we have contributed a lot to their country. This is number one. Number two, our business always looks forward to the developed world, like Europe, America, Japan, Australia. As far as those importing countries are concerned, they have the strict regulation as far as the quality control and say ingredients. However, there is a vast market in still LDCs and the developing countries. Somehow we are not ready to explore those countries. If we start exploring to those countries to start with, then probably we can develop our export items to get into the standard of the developed world. Sir, I'd like to talk about one issue at home when we are talking about the market diversification and export orientation. We need to reduce our cost. There are too many certificates are required for any business enterprise. I own a small little poultry industry, a poultry business. I need 8 certificates every year to renew. It costs time, resources, and also it drains out the manpower of the. So I think the country should think about it, how to streamline having this 8, 10 certificates every year to renew. And they all not come in one time. It comes throughout the year. So you keep on engaging manpower, going to them, bringing them, taking them, and let's not talk about the money that is involved in it. Another factor is the National Board of Revenue. Sir, we need to do something about the tax policy. Tax payment. This is one of the places where everyone is harassed unless until you get into the unfair business. When we talk about the export diversification, first of all, we have to have the policy support. And that policy support, we need starting from the raw materials down up to the finished product. Whenever we see a new entrepreneur starting to do something new, he faces mountainous, obstacle to overcome. Because our financial institutions, they are not ready to support any new venture. So there is the time where I think government needs to come up for the new ventures. Now, every time the bank says, we don't have experience on this particular sector. Sir, if we did not start the garments in 70s, what would have been our position today? So we have to support the new entrepreneurs who are coming up with the. We give a lot of incentives to the exporters. I suggest that we should also add incentives to the entrepreneurs who explore the new market. absolutely brand new markets are coming. If you start giving them that type of incentive, I think the others will be encouraged. First of all, financial support, regulatory support, and last not the least is the what they call incentive. Sir, thank you very much. Though I had some more words, I think I would like to give it to others to talk about this. But last not the least, we need our manpower to be developed. Our Chinese friends are coming to build our roads and bridges. Our Japanese friends are coming to build our airports. I don't know when we will build our things with our engineers or our technicians. Thank you very much for giving this floor.
Thank you, sir, for your, for your uh, excellent points and coming from the business field as well, and also from the field where you have mentioned that our peacekeepers, they have created a fund of goodwill which could be exploited in the business way. Thank you for mentioning that. And we have now Mr. Siddiqui, who is also from the business. He is going to intervene, and then the last intervention will be from, yes. Mr. Siddiqui.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. We are discussing here the economic diversification and global market. It means diversification and economic activities. Interestingly, when Dr. Mahfouz presented his paper, he has given full of information, so many information, but he has given priority to the export market. That's why we are discussing only export market. Let me draw your attention to the local industrialization and others. I can give you some example. Around 20 years back, we have started importing biscuit from Malaysia. There is a lots of criticism in Bangladesh. Why we are importing biscuit from Malaysia? Can we not produce here? Ultimately, what it has developed a taste of the local buyers, and technology has been transferred. Manufacturer became innovative, so they have developed their own biscuits, local biscuits, and now we are exporting biscuit to other countries. So this example, I want to draw your attention that when we talk about the trade diversification, trade facilitation, it actually facilitates industrialization and export. So I can give you another example, say hydrogen peroxide. We have started producing in Bangladesh. When there was import, we allowed import at zero tax. Even then, some of the entrepreneurs have set up their hydrogen peroxide industry because of the demand by the textile industry here. So it is not the support from the tax benefit for the local manufacturers. Only the creation of the local market facilitate this industry of hydrogen peroxide. Now, how the trade facilitation can improve the local industry as well as the export? Say, for example, India, when there was a discussion that we can go for free trade in Bangladesh because of our strategic location. We have a Chinese market, India market, ASEAN market. If we go for a free trade zone, then we can take over the market. And just like Singapore, subsequently Dubai has become a free trade zone. They are importing and exporting. But somehow our policymakers don't like it. But can we follow the Indian model? They have developed 10 free trade zones for re-export of the products. But we are supposed to export to India. Now India is exporting this product to Bangladesh. But we have opportunity. When we talk about the free trade zone, free economic zone, what is the meaning of free economy? If you go through the policy paper, they can allow bulk import of raw materials in free economic zone and sell to local industries or export-oriented industry. That easily we can do because infrastructure already ready. Only it is require a small policy change in the document, allowing other importer to import raw materials so that we can sell it to the local market and also exporters. So that's why let us think of, we don't need technology, we don't need huge investment, only policy change. That's why I say let us go for trade facilitation, and then it will create an economic diversification. And maybe what in our mindset the export diversification. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Siddiq, for your very relevant recommendation. The last person to take the floor. We are really hard pressed with time. So I request you to be extremely brief,
Sure.
extremely.
Yes, thank you. This is Professor Mizan Khan from Independent University, Bangladesh. I am the senior advisor of the International Center for Climate Change and Development at IUB. My one comment is about Professor Rosanna Rashid's area about labor export. You know, our Honorable Prime Minister is extremely active about climate-induced displacement. I am a very, very long-term climate negotiator of the Bangladesh delegation for the last 22 years. I have a suggestion. Only we look at labor export to the Middle Eastern market. Why not to look for export in the industrial country? We have published a opinion piece, policy piece in the Science magazine, which is a very high impact print media, about selective relocation abroad, because the industrial countries have got negative population growth and their population is very rapidly aging, and we have surplus labor. So based on bilateral deals, because multilateral framework is very cumbersome, very time consuming. So bilaterally, why not to establish, for example, state-of-the-art training institutions in Dhaka, and we can, in a span of 2 or 3 years, we can kind of train young men and women from vulnerable hotspot areas in Bangladesh in those institutions for 2 or 3 years, learning the language of those countries, and then export them on selective relocation, not wholesale migration. Even on circular migration, they may not be given permanent citizenship. But this kind of arrangement, there are many countries in the world between developed and developing countries where they have got this agreement. So I call this model a selective relocation abroad, and we are developing a detailed policy research paper on this, and we want to share someday in few months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, very much. And yes, the floor goes to the gentleman there. And after that, we will
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I am
request
Lieutenant
our
Colonel retired
diplomatic
Shahada.
colleagues.
My field of learning and study is on tourism and something related to contributing for China-Bangladesh relations. I had been listening many leaders in the past because I had the opportunity to interpret between leaders of both the countries. And I also had the opportunity to serve in the Sylhet in Bangladesh border guard regiments. So from that experience, I would like to suggest few things. From childhood, we had been listening Bangladesh is famous for exporting jute and tea. And it is there as of now. I strongly feel that still we can earn a lot from these two. Within my area of responsibility, there were 90 tea gardens. And while interacting with them, I have noticed whatever we know from the television or newspapers, but it is really least focused regarding how to develop tea further and how to make the productions even double than what it is now. We are very happy if there is a little increase or if the budget can be fulfilled. So we can improve the quality of our tea, which is, we don't need any extra infrastructure to do that. We already have the gardens. Another item, most important items, today we have not discussed or maybe covered very less. It is the sea minerals. Now the sea is ours, 100% determined. With due respect to Chinese ambassador, I would like to inform everyone here. In this room, when Ambassador Ma Ming-Chiang was here, it was me who suggested to start the study of oceanography in the universities of Bangladesh. Then with the help of China, because the ambassador committed here, the oceanography subject was started teaching in Jahangirnagar University and Dhaka University. Now, the resources of sea, which is our demand, is yet to be explored. So my suggestion is Bangladesh should focus of having two mega projects. One is we will continuously research how to explore the sea resources. Number two, we will have a mega training centers. Just now, my predecessor has also focused on this. A mega training centers where we will train our expertise, our employees to increase the skills so that they can go for higher level jobs in abroad. Both these things we can very well do by ourselves, the way Bangladesh did Padma Bridge with own resources, with the assistance of good friend China. So in both these mega projects can be implemented by Bangladesh with the assistance of China. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You have raised some important, relevant points and also touched a mega sector. You are mentioning mega, that is blue economy and ocean resources, and in agriculture, very relevant point of tea. And there in agriculture, tea and all agro-related fields, we have scope and efforts are going on for introduction of biotech, nanotech, and different other inputs, technologies, and high-tech AI and everything. So a lot of opportunities are also there. Thank you. Now we have got some interest from our diplomatic friends. We would listen to them. First, I'd request Your Excellency, the Ambassador of Japan, to take the floor. I have got.
Thank you very much. I didn't expect that I would say a few words, but yeah, with regard to the export diversification, we will do utmost effort to help the facilitating the diversification. But yeah, some people has mentioned that today's discussion was solely focused on the export, but yeah, in order to facilitate the export from this country to Japan or any other countries, I think you need the collaboration in this country to attract more investment so that for the investors, they can facilitate the export to other countries, as well as try to make use of the huge domestic market here in Bangladesh. It's a very, very asset for this country. And some of the previous speakers have mentioned, there are so many, from the viewpoint of the foreign investors, still obstacles, and which not only the domestic manufacturers, but also the foreign manufacturers are suffering. And through the joint effort made by the Bangladesh business people and the foreign investors, we should invite more investors, more foreign people from foreign countries, including Japan, to Bangladesh, and to enhance the export, as well as to make use of the domestic markets. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Excellency, for your willingness and your country's willingness of support for Bangladesh in terms of technology, in terms of training skills, and also in particularly technology and supporting our diversification, both for the domestic market and its expansion and also for export. Thank you very much indeed. Japan is a very good source of technology. Thank you. I would request now His Excellency, the Ambassador of China to Bangladesh, to take the floor, and also very important partner in our growth and development.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Honorable Foreign Minister, from Secretary and other distinguished guests. It is also very much enlightening to attend this seminar. I can feel the urgency on the part of participants to diversify its economy, to enhance its competitiveness in the view of the year 2026 for the graduation of LDCs. Definitely, it is also my obligation that China will do together with the other development partners to make our contribution in this regard. And definitely, I have good news that in terms of export of agricultural products to China this year, very hopefully, you can see in the second half of this year, the mango from Bangladesh will be exported to China. It is a great, achievement. I know last year, the mango exports from Bangladesh only amount more than 3,000 tons. But if the market of China open to Bangladesh, there'll be millions of tons of the mangoes export to China. So it is, I believe it is a great achievement. But definitely, China contribution go beyond mangoes. So we are working with, we want to import more jute products. Actually, that's fantastic products, but you lack, some professor mentioned about marketing. So we are with the FBCCR to organize big jute expo in China. So the Chinese people know there's diversity of jute products produced in Bangladesh that can open new markets in China. So I can see a lot of opportunities, potentials in export from Bangladesh products to China. But I also echo the views from a Japanese ambassador that also encourage Bangladesh to attract more investment, either from China or for the other countries come over to Bangladesh. And that is also my observation. Bangladesh also needs diversification in industries to have more products instead of IMGs, so as to enhance its competitive and in terms of exports. So Bangladesh can export more to the world. So that is something China will work along with the relevant agencies of the Bangladesh to have more Chinese investment in Bangladesh and contribute for the strategy of smart Bangladesh and to work our share for the contribution after, for the Bangladesh after graduation in the year 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Investment, that is what we need very much, and also the support that we can diversify and expand our export basket. Our development is growth-led and export-led significantly. Thank you for your expression of support and increase in trade with China. That is that you are also taking care of particularly. Now I give the floor to Ambassador of Thailand to Bangladesh. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Special Guest, and distinguished guests. I have 2 to 3 points to share with you. First one, the seminar, one of the topic or the issue that has been touched during the seminar is the role of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the role of Ministry of Commerce. I just would like to inform or to share my experience that it is also one of the classic issue of Thailand too. For Thailand, we also don't have like you call commercial wing in every country. So diplomat has to, turn the role from the traditional one to like being like a salesman. We have to go together with other ministry to knock the door, to collect the information and to study the behavior of consumer and report to headquarters. It will take time, but it is not only your problem, but it's very classic issue one. The second one is about branding country. It is very important, as many of us has mentioned. Actually, Bangladesh can produce very high quality product, but like IMG, but it's not under your own brand. If you have your own brand and promote these products, and so that it will be widely recognized that Bangladesh can produce the very high quality products. So this is my own observation. And the last one is concerning trade agreement, either in form of FTA or PTA. But we think that it will help a lot to diversify the market. And Thailand is keen to have FTA with Bangladesh, which will be also one of the means to further strengthen our economic cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your comment. Definitely, there is a tremendous scope for cooperation with Thailand. You have a lot of experience in the tourism sector, and that is a growing and coming to be a mega sector in Bangladesh. So there, your cooperation would be very useful. So then now we have the new Secretary General of BIMSTEC. He's here, and I give him the floor. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for giving me the floor. I would just like to mention that BIMSTEC, the regional organization that we have in Bay of Bengal, is also working towards having a free trade arrangement among the countries of the region. And once that the constituent agreements are negotiated, it could help Bangladesh have more exports to the countries of the region.
Indeed, Excellency. Now, I'd like to give the floor to His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Brunei to Bangladesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Minister, Honorable Foreign Secretary, distinguished guests and speakers. Talking about diversification. I'm so connected with diversification because our country, Brunei, is also focusing on how to diversify our economy as well. That is the reason that we have signed a few MOUs with Bangladesh, like sectors in agriculture, fishery, livestock, because we thought that Bangladesh has a lot to offer and to help Brunei. So if you're talking about migration, so your expertise can migrate to Brunei to invest in Brunei in these sectors. But again, talking about this morning seminar, I truly learned a lot. I learned the situations, the issues, narratives of Bangladesh in the context of your diversification. Some speakers also mentions about opportunities and challenges. Some also make recommendations. I've also heard about options and alternatives for your economic diversification. But the only question that I want to raise here is, what specific strategies has the government of Bangladesh employed to diversify the economy beyond the dominant RMG sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. The last from the floor will be His Excellency, the Ambassador of Vietnam. Floor is yours, Excellency.
Honorable Minister, honorable Chief Guest, and honorable distinguished guests. It's the first time I think that I think it's a very good topic for MOFA and related authority to join. I think very benefit for all. I think for only the Bangladeshi and for the many another country. With Vietnam, I think the same problem of Vietnam before, and now I think it's very important for the for our developing country. I think so. But I already share with you something. The first I share with Ambassador Zaban to the Bangladesh. We have much so many attract more and more foreign investment for the careers or the environment for manufacturing more and more different the kind of item to export is very foreign investment very important. But if you would like to attract more foreign investment to Bangladesh, we have to create the belief for the foreign investment. Therefore, there's the same Vietnam before. You have to create the belief. Why when they invest here for the Bangladesh and for them? That's first. And the two, I think we have improved the administration. It's not only investment, not only everything. That's very basic of the. Of course, for beliefs of another people, it's not only foreign investor and for people with the second. And with Vietnam, I think in the next future, cooperation between Vietnam and Bangladesh and closer and closer. I believe that because we have so many the similar experience can to be exchanged together because to the same history and same level developing of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your important points. Obviously, definitely, business governance, that is a very important point. Now, we have come to the closing final segment of the seminar today. And now I'll invite Additional Secretary, Mr. Helaluddin from the Ministry of sorry, just a second. Our friend from Indian High Commission is going to speak.
Excellency, thank you so much for giving me the floor, and let me also add my voice in support of all the presentations which were made, which clearly underline the urge in Bangladesh for a development, and we do stand committed from our side to support Bangladesh in its further growth and development. 2 points which I thought I would also highlight from the presentation. One which was made on skill development, and as many of you are aware that we in our recently concluded G20 presidency we had a priority on skill development and global skill mapping, and which looks at a structural way in which we can map the global gaps on skills internationally. And India stands committed in that as well to help skilling, especially digital skilling of citizens around the world, especially in Bangladesh. On the second point on the export diversification and free trade agreements, I think the comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which is in talks between India and Bangladesh, once it is concluded, we will be able to further enhance our bilateral trade in a robust manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed for your and your country's expression of support for diversification and in different related fields. Now, I request that Additional Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Helaluddin, to take the floor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Thank you, sir. I thank BIASS for the invitation. I think this is a very time-befitting subject at this juncture of development of Bangladesh. And I thank and congratulate the keynote presenter and the panelists for their excellent intervention. Let me be very brief. I will not take more than 2 minutes. I have picked up some points, and where Ministry of Agriculture can intervene to further promote the economic diversification. Firstly, one panelist said that we have done enough on the product and production diversification of agriculture producers. That's correct. And now is the time to focus on the market diversification, and we are working on it. And by this time, Bangladesh agricultural export has reached a number of countries, but the concern is there, the safety and quality aspect. And I think our private sectors should play a role in this regard. We are developing and further strengthening our regulatory framework. But sometimes it becomes frustrating to us when we hear that some of the entrepreneurs try to deviate from the standards, and this puts us in the back foot. We have some very concerning examples with regard to potato export to Russia. And a few years back, Russia put some embargo on potato export, and it has taken us a long time to recover that trust. And we are hopeful that we'll be able to continue. But once we lose the trust and confidence, it takes a long time to regain that. So I request the private sector to play their role from their perspective. One gentleman has mentioned about nitrophora on agriculture producers. We will examine that issue, and urea in mustard oil. Definitely, we'll look those issues. We have some other areas also. Dr. Rosana Rashid highlighted about the agricultural workers in other countries. We had an engagement with Gambia, maybe 15 or 20 years back. And FAO was involved with that process. We will examine whether we can replicate this engagement in some other countries. And if we try to export agriculture worker, that may not be practical, but rather we try to export agricultural experts. And this is possible. Bangladesh is abundant with agricultural experts and technical people. I thank one of my seniors, sir, who has mentioned about support measures, how long it will continue. Support measures has definitely made our products competitive, but we have seen some misuse also. And given the current financial, I would not say it stress for us, it's a discomfort for us because we have well managed this stress from abroad. And agriculture has been instrumental to absorb that shock. Aside from remittance, aside from RMG, agriculture played the anchor role to serve as the cushion to absorb that shock. And but to make our agricultural products as well as other products competitive at the global level, we must come out from this support system at certain point in time. And what would be the time frame to get out of this support system and what would be the modality? We need to revisit and think. I would request the research personnel to think about it. I appreciate the point made by our respected Chinese ambassador regarding mango and other products and jute. China has been a very good partner for us in the field of agriculture research and other areas. And I appreciate this idea very much. Let me extend or elaborate a bit further whether we can go for a joint venture with our Chinese friends. I think Ministry of Agriculture would welcome this kind of JV idea from our Chinese friends. With these words, let me be very brief. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shah Mohammad Hilaluddin, for your very brief remarks. We had some changes, last-minute changes in the speakers' arrangements in this segment. The Senior Secretary Commerce was supposed to be present, but unavoidably he is outside Bangladesh. So now we are going to request His Excellency Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Foreign Secretary, Senior Secretary, to take the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Bees. His Excellency Dr. Hassan Mahmood MP, Honorable Foreign Minister, Mr. Mahmoud Abul Kalam Azad, Honorable Member of Parliament, Director General Bees, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, representatives from business, industry, academia, and the press. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin by paying my deepest tribute to the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Begum Fazilatunisa Mujib, and the martyrs of 15th August, the language martyrs and the martyrs of our liberation war through whose supreme sacrifices we got independent Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the 8th most populous nation of the world and located between Southeast and South Asia, holds significant promises for growth and prosperity. Our strategic location in the Indo-Pacific configuration also bears special significance. Since independence, Bangladesh has undergone a remarkable transformation from one of the world's poorest nations to a flourishing economy of Asia, well known today for its thriving ready-made garment sector. Over a decade, Bangladesh experienced an average annual GDP growth rate of 6% plus, which surpassed the South Asian average since 2010. Projections from the London-based Center for Economics and Business Research suggest that Bangladesh is on track to ascend to the ranks of the world's 20 largest economies by 2038. Moreover, it has garnered international acclaim for its effective poverty alleviation efforts, recognized as a model by the United Nations. Bangladesh presently stands as the largest LDC scheduled for graduation in 2026. A strong feature of the economy of Bangladesh is its focus on industry. Although agriculture sector still remains dominant, the service sector is also improving rapidly. Dear audience, Vision 2041, as laid out by the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, outlines various priorities, including food security, accessibility to education and healthcare, gender equality, and good governance. It underscores the importance of industrialization and digitalization while expressing the government's ambition to enhance export, diversify the economy, and attract increased foreign investment. The latest election manifesto of the ruling government also emphasizes on these issues. In pursuit of its goal to achieve high income status by 2041, Bangladesh recognizes the necessity of diversifying its economy. With ready-made garments constituting 85% of exports with limited destinations, the risk of vulnerability factor is rather obvious. To transition towards a new path characterized by diversity, inclusivity, and sustainability, Bangladesh is strategically leveraging digital technologies, which holds huge potentials. Many other products and areas have already been identified today by the keynote speaker and the various distinguished panelists. Esteemed participants, in our efforts to safeguard local industries and maintain foreign currency reserves, tariffs on certain final or intermediate goods are routinely raised. While these higher tariffs contribute to increased tax revenue, they pose a challenge for a nation aiming to boost resource mobilization while ensuring competitiveness and fairness. We need to keep in mind this side of the coin as well. To further advance, Bangladesh must diversify its industrial and export baskets to make the economy more resilient to global market challenges. Honorable Prime Minister on many occasions emphasized on product and market diversification. We need to work hard to connect the market with the right mix of products that we can offer competitively. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is working on exploring new markets with the help of our missions abroad. However, our efforts alone may not suffice. We need to be supplemented by the private sector, other government bodies and think tanks, and of course, the private sector. We need to strengthen and streamline bureaucratic processes, upgrade digital and physical infrastructure, and simplify investment and business regimes, and provide incentive packages to stimulate a more diversified local industrial base and promoting innovation. Over-reliance on traditional subsidies and incentives for exports may not fit the post-LDC scenario. We should adopt a forward-looking and modern policy mix that encourages learning, risk-taking, and innovation while creating opportunities for new businesses and sectors. Distinguished audience, our export-led growth model, driven by competitive labor costs and partially supported by trade preferences associated with the least developed country status, has reached its developmental limits. In 52 years of independence, Bangladesh's leadership and accomplishments have laid the groundwork for transiting to a new development paradigm centered on inclusivity, sustainability, and innovation. Now we can capitalize on several strengths: a bold political vision backed by strong and committed political leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, our strategic geographic location, significant global economic potential fueled by a burgeoning young workforce, and a wealth of knowledge derived from local enterprises. We also need to forge synergy in our international partnerships and craft trade and investment agreements tailored to support sustainable local industrial development. As graduation from LDC status approaches, Bangladesh is at a critical juncture to implement reforms that will sustain its progress. This pivotal moment presents an opportunity for Bangladesh to lay the groundwork for a smooth and irreversible transition while serving as a role model for other graduating LDCs. Bangladesh's future prosperity hinges on how we transform and upgrade our industrial landscape and actively shape global and local production, consumption, and trade patterns. Distinguished guests, we have numerous advantages to leverage, including its expanding domestic market, reputation as a reliable business partner, and a history of successful local brands and companies. A dynamic private sector committed to innovation and equal engagement from international partners are crucial to reap the benefits. We need to draw a clear roadmap to move ahead. A few thrust sectors with comparative advantages and having potentials need to be identified to complement the RMG products. Industry, business, policymakers, and academia need to come together to formulate this roadmap. leather, jute, agri products, pharmaceuticals, IT-enabled services with high value addition deserve special considerations. I firmly believe that through well-coordinated efforts and shared responsibilities by the government, private sector, and international partners, we will succeed in our endeavors. To conclude, I would like to thank BIS for arranging this important and timely seminar. Thank you all. Joy Bangla.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Foreign Secretary, for your very valuable remarks and a very comprehensive statement. Particularly, you have rightly mentioned the need for roadmap. That is crucial. Now, may I take the privilege to request Honorable Special Guest, Mr. Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad, MP, former Principal Coordinator SDGs, Prime Minister's Office, and our very beloved senior colleague and guide. I request you to take the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Chief Guest, special guests and diplomats, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I pay my sincere thanks to Mr. Mustafiz for his brilliant keynote speech. We heard from 20 persons, 4 discussants, 8 open discussion, 6 diplomats, and 2 special guests before me. The idea, recommendation, points they raised, I almost agree with this. Question of prioritization, which one comes first? That maybe we can look into. The issues of diversification. I want to draw your attention only here. Issues of diversification, because our economic growth, our GDP, facing the COVID issues, after COVID issues, our export, import, GDP growth, life experience, all this. Only on the diversification, why RMG is our 80 or 85% export? Why? We need to look into. Yes, so obviously we will learn from our friends from China, Vietnam, India, other countries. But what are the learning points from RMG sector? Why only RMG? Because it's all the challenges RMG are facing. The labor crisis, labor disputes, labor loss, their capital investment, our poor infrastructure, tax, tariff, infrastructure issues, especially Rana Plaza, on fire incidents, so many. But still, why RMG is flourishing? Why RMG is still continuing to be the best? Why they have the almost all the LEED certified garments in our country? We'll analyze this. So far, I know, in 1980s, one civil servant, he started working with this RMG sector. Nurul Qadir Khan. He started with his business in RMG, and he trained a huge number of workers from Korea, and almost all of them became the owner of RMG factories. That might be that he started with a robust steps. Number 2, the issue of policy, which already one of our friend, Mr. Siddiqui, mentioned about the policy change. The unique policy change was bonded warehouse at the factory premises. This was impossible at that time. The customs authority, they did not agree with this. But the government decided to have the bonded warehouse at the premises of the owner. And it's working very well. Now we need to find out what else we need for the diversification. Yes, we identified so many issues we saw in the presentation Maybe we should prioritize those jute goods, leather, vegetable, pharmaceuticals, muslin and zamdani, obviously service sector skill development. So my idea to the private sector and also the Economic Zones Authority, BIDA, we should sit together to identify the areas and shoot the bullseye that what steps need to be taken, because learnings is in Bangladesh. Obviously, we will go outside of the country. And our major strength, we have 100 economic zones. We have the Bangladesh Investment Development Authority. We have the National Skill Development Authority. And we have plan for the 100 years. The plan for SDG implementation for 2041 Smart Bangladesh, 2041 Developed Bangladesh, 2041 again the Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, 2071 100 years of Bangladesh, and 2100 Delta Plan. So why we lose our ways? No chance, no way. My request will be, let us sit together and find out the issues where what policy change is required. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your voice of wisdom and your suggestion that we must follow to move faster in the course of our diversification. Now, it gives us the great honor and privilege to request Honorable Foreign Minister, the chief guest of the day, to take the floor and give us his address the audience. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Chair of the session, Chairman of BEES, Mr. Ambassador Mustafizur Rahman, and a special guest, Dr. Abul Kalam Azad, former Principal Secretary and SDG Coordinator of Prime Minister's Office, Director General of BEES and Additional Secretary of Agriculture Ministry, members of the diplomatic community, ambassadors, and former foreign secretaries are here. And so extreme gathering, I mean, comprising, coming from diplomatic community, coming from business community, academia, and former bureaucrats, and even some foreign secretaries, former army bureaucrats, etc. Indeed, I've so learned gathering. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very honored to speak before you. At the same time, I'm very shy to speak before you because I know very little about the subject. First of all, I want to pay my deepest respect and tribute to our founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and also to Bangamata Sheikh Faziluddin Nasa Mujib. I want to pay my respect to liberation martyrs. As I was speaking in February, so I want to pay my respect and honor, homage to our language movement martyrs. I did not have the opportunity to listen the keynote speech, but I've listened I've listened the remarks made by different people from different ambassadors and academia, and also from the business community. Indeed, over the last 15 years' time, Bangladesh has made a tremendous progress. Bangladesh is a country having highest density of population in the globe. Per square kilometer, 1,260 people. India is a populous country, but per square kilometer population is 450 plus. And China is a populous country, per square kilometer population density 350, around 350. And Bangladesh, 1,260 per square kilometer. And this is a country of climatic events. Every year, in Bangladesh, about 20% of the total land area goes underwater because of flooding. And every 10 years, about 70% of our total land area goes underwater. It's a floodplain. And Bangladesh is a country of drought. Bangladesh is a country of climatic events, such as cyclone and etc. We are affected by all the negative factors of the climate change. And still, Bangladesh has shown its ability how to prosper over the last 15 years' time. We used to be member of least developed countries. We have been graduated to be developing country. We have been graduated. It will be declared by 2026. If there would not be COVID, by this year it will be declared. It has been delayed because of the corona pandemic. And Bangladesh became food deficit country back in mid-50s, when the population of Bangladesh was 55 million, then Bengal, East Bengal, 55 million. Since then, not a single inch of arable land has been increased, rather has been decreased by 25% to 30% because of the expansion of the cities, because of infrastructure buildup, because of industrialization, and because of making shelter for increased number of population. And today, the population is 170 to 75 million. We are number 8. Our foreign secretary has said we used to be number 7. We are number 7. We are lagged behind by Pakistan, because in Pakistan now 241 million population, but during our independence we were 70 million, and in Pakistan was 55 million, and so we are lagged behind by high population growth rate in Pakistan. So we are dropped to number 8. But I'm afraid whether we would be able to keep our position number 8 because of the high growth rate in other countries of the world. Anyway, so despite losing a lot of arable land, Bangladesh has become self-sufficient in food grain production. Our food grain production was, back in 1972, 11 million metric ton, if I'm not wrong. And today, our food grain production is close to 40 million metric ton. Such impressive growth. This has not wondered the people only. This has wondered the World Food Program. Bangladesh is a case study now, today, to other countries. World Food Program plays Bangladesh. Look how Bangladesh, be a most densely populated country of the world, be a country of climatic events, being a country affected by all the negative factors of the climate change, how Bangladesh has become self-sufficient in food grain production. And back in 2009, when he formed the government, Prime Minister gave me the charge of a State Minister for Foreign Affairs in 2009. Back in 2009, when he formed the government, our GDP size was 80 billion US dollar. And today, our GDP size is 578 billion US dollar, 6 times more. And our budget size was 81,000 crore. And today, 7,67,000 crore. How many times more? You can imagine. And number of people, percentage of people below poverty line was 40%. And today, percentage of people below poverty line is 18.6% or 7%. And extreme poverty at the time, back in 2009, was 20%. And today, extreme poverty is 5%. How we have progressed over the last 15 years' time. This is not because of magic. This is because of magical leadership of Prime Minister, our beloved Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. And our export basket, our export, in terms of the money, our export has been increased, but our export has not been diversified. And this is the topic of discussion today. And very valuable discussion has taken place here. I'm very happy to see, happy to hear learned expression and comment by different people. And export diversification is closely associated with the rapid and inclusive economic growth of countries. In the 8th five-year plan of Bangladesh, export diversification issue has been considered in a broad spectrum, which includes not only product and geographical diversification, but also intermediate goods diversification, quality diversification, and goods to service diversification. To achieve the goal of export diversification, the government focuses on 3 aspects of the trade policy regime: ensuring export competitiveness, reducing anti-export bias of the trade regime, and reducing anti-diversification bias of exports. To diversify export basket, the government has identified several sectors as highest priority sector and special development sector. Highest priority sectors such as includes value-added RMG, garments, accessories, software and ICT products, pharmaceutical products, plastic products, footwear products, jute products, agro-processed products, shipbuilding, and also agricultural different products, and a skilled manpower export also. I just want to give you one data. Netherlands, in size less than 1/3 of Bangladesh, Netherlands. And Netherlands agricultural export is $72 billion per year. And $50 billion, they are domestic product, and $22 billion is value-added product. They import from other country and value it. And our total export is not $72 billion yet. Netherlands in size is less than 1/3 of Bangladesh. So we have a lot of scope. To export agricultural products, because Bangladesh is a fertile country. And I'm very happy to hear from the Chinese ambassador. I had the opportunity to meet with many other ambassadors, and they have expressed their willingness to import mango from Bangladesh. If you go to Europe and if you buy the mango from the super shop, that is not mango, that is to me the vegetable. So, so mango export has a lot of potential, and many other agricultural products export. And we are exporting, if I'm not wrong, last year was $1 billion. $1 billion. And this year target is $2 billion. Is it? Yeah, $2 billion. But we can export within near future more than $10 billion, at least $10 billion of agricultural products. And to diversify the, export basket, government is offering many facilities. The government has planned to provide facilities for the priority and a special development sector, which includes project loan and reduced interest rates, income tax rebate, possible financial incentives and subsidies for utility services, such as electricity, water, and gas flowing for gas following what WTO rules, export credit at lower interest rates, and on soft term, duty drawback, bond facilities, duty-free import of equipment for setting up compliant enterprises, etc. At the operational level, the government has found Business Promotion Council for several sectors. The government is also planning intersector project to address issues such as reviewing bond system, duty drawback, subsidies, etc., to keep export price at a competitive level. Today, we are facing challenge after the corona pandemic and after Russia-Ukraine war and Gaza war. We are facing a lot of challenges worldwide because the demand for garments products has been decreased and buying capacity where we export our products, buying capacity of the people have been decreased. That's why we have been facing a lot of challenges. We are also aware that the geopolitical scenario in our region has been evolving all the time. And this evolving geopolitical scenario has created both opportunities and challenges for us. We are quite aware of this geopolitical scenario. The government of Bangladesh is well aware of that and taking prudent steps in this regard, keeping in view the emerging geopolitical scenario. The government has strengthened its measures to attract FDI through establishing new special economic zones. You know that our government has decided to set up 100 economic zones around the country. Already, I think more than 20 economic zones have been set up. And in those economic zones, many industries have gone into production. You know that when we got our independence back in 1971, the contribution of agriculture sector back in 1972 was 52%. And contribution of industrial sector back in 1972 was around 5%. And in 2022, contribution of agriculture sector has been dropped to 11.22%. And contribution of industry sector has been increased to 34%. And this year, I believe it will be 35%. So we are becoming industrialized nation as contribution from the industrial sector is increasing day by day, going close to 50% to our GDP contribution. So this is because of the pragmatic plan, visionary plan of our beloved Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. You know that we are going through fourth industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was invention of steam engine. That was in 1752. And after the invention of steam engine, we were behind. We are lagged behind by Europe and advanced countries by 150 years because first steam engine run train operated in Bombay in 1852, 100 years. We're lagged behind by 100 years. And second industrial revolution was invention of the electricity. That was in 1821 by Michael Faraday. And first electricity was produced in 1901 in Calcutta. We are behind by 80 years. And third industrial revolution was invention of microprocessor personal computer. That was in 1960s. And in Bangladesh, the use of microprocessor and personal computer started at the beginning of 1990s. So we are behind by 30 years. But we are not behind in the fourth industrial revolution. You may remember that back in 2008, we floated the slogan, Digital Bangladesh. We transform Bangladesh into a digital Bangladesh. Many people laughed at us. Even our party workers and supporters asked us, what is digital Bangladesh? And they didn't understand what is digital Bangladesh. Today, that is the reality. This is a country of 170 million people, and SIM card user, mobile SIM user, 190 million, you see. And when you have a person who is working in Middle East and his father calls from Manpura Island or Sandip Island or Kutubdia Island or Bhola Island to his son, send me 10,000 taka because some people will come to see your sister. So, and within a minute, he sends the money. This is digital Bangladesh. When I took admission in the university, I had to queue on the line for half day and again on the line, another half day, a few hours to deposit the slip. And today, people apply online and get the result online. This is digital Bangladesh. Bangladesh truly today is a digital country. I had the opportunity to go with Helen Clark to Chorkukrimokri back in 2011. And in 2011, in Chorkukrimokri, there was no national grid electricity. Electricity was produced by the solar panel. And the solar panel run, by solar panel, computer was run. And we spoke with the Prime Minister from there, from Chorkukrimokri, me and Helen Clark, through a video conference. When Helen Clark returned to New York, she said, the resolution I got in Chorkukrimokri, a remote island of Bangladesh, sometimes that I miss in New York. This is digital Bangladesh. Bangladesh truly today is a digital Bangladesh. And as we have been going through fourth industrial revolution, ICT, robotics, these are the parameters of fourth industrial revolution. And for that, we need skilled population, skilled manpower, and we should keep emphasis on that. I believe today, as discussion, very valuable discussion has taken place here, and you have put many valuable suggestions. I would request Bees to summarize all those things and to disseminate all these things. Then this seminar will become fruitful. Thanks to you all. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Honorable Foreign Minister, the chief guest of the seminar, distinguished special guest, Additional Secretary, Minister of Agriculture, Foreign Secretary and Senior Secretary, Honorable Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad, MP, my colleague, Director General BIISS, distinguished participants, particularly the discussants and the speakers of the panel today, Your Excellency, the ambassadors, and participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, we had a very learned and very probing discussion and seminar today on the subject, which is of great urgency, relevance, and important for making meaningful and faster progress towards the realization of the dream of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, that is Golden Bengal, a Bangladesh prosperous and developed. And for that, his able daughter, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, is relentlessly pursuing the visions that her government has spelled out and is spearheading. The Vision 2021 already achieved, and the Vision 2041. Indeed, the topic that we have discussed today was of great urgency because diversification of economy which is basically export driven and agricultural base fundamentally, and with little areas and sectors of diversification to enable us to survive the shocks and disruptions happening in the world. So this is of great urgency. We cannot depend upon single sector growth or few sector growth, but we are on track. We have shown great strength in the major sectors that we have developed and we are maintaining in our economy and for our export. And very interestingly, we can notice that the sector of RMG that occupies 85%, contributes 85% to our export. That has a root in our tradition and in our culture. It has been actually revived from ancient times to the modern times. And we have natural strength and actually foundation to replicate many other sectors, to bring up many other sectors and develop in the same manner. We have brain strength. So we have great opportunities to develop our IT sector and 4IR sector and many other related sectors. And particularly enhancing the services sector that is necessary, that can give a great lift to our export, as one of our discussants has highlighted. And definitely the discussions today have been very fruitful and very productive. This discussion has been able to identify the areas where we can diversify, and also we got recommendations how to proceed about it, and we can go about it. And the valuable comments from the floor and from our distinguished colleagues and former colleagues, ambassadors, they have made are going to guide us definitely. And respected Foreign Secretary has mentioned the importance and urgent need for going for a roadmap that is of very crucial importance. And for that, we are definitely going to make a good and very precise report on the seminar today, and we would also make the recommendation for that, so that we can not only sit within our government to see and explore what we can do in terms of diversification, in terms of policy reform, in terms of making soft and hard infrastructure for all that, and but also would need to sit with our development and economic trade and investment and development partners, our friends and partners, the other countries, who many of whom have already expressed their spontaneous support during this seminar. So that is going to be a very concrete step forward, what we need. So I'm not going to make any repetition of what the speakers and discussants and our distinguished colleagues have made. It is now the time for closing the seminar. And before I do so, I'd like to particularly thank Honorable Foreign Minister to grace our event and for making his very wise suggestions and also giving his direction about how we can diversify our economy and build our economic resilience and also enhance our autonomy to cruise confidently in the global economic and political economic situation. Definitely, we have not much time because transitioning is happening and we have to go beyond 2026. So we have to proceed faster. So thank you indeed. And particularly, I thank the distinguished panelists. They have contributed in a very professional and very scholarly manner. And I particularly thank the honorable special guests today who have made their commitments of taking the program of our diversification forward. And I thank the distinguished participants who have come in a very spontaneous and very enthusiastic manner. This is possibly the first time our capacity has been overflown, and we see this great enthusiasm and appreciate it. And I thank my colleagues from the BIISS for making this arrangements and also making contribution to substantive contribution to the seminar. And also I thank the keynote speaker and our Director General, my colleague, for his part and contribution. Thank you all. We have lunch outside that is ready. Thank you very much. Thank you.